All right, we are live. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Yeah, definitely. And is it Akash? Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Akash.
Akash. Okay,
Yeah.
Akash. Um, I saw you drinking something there. Do you got coffee or tea?
Water, actually.
Oh, water. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
And you're in India, right?
that's right. I'm from a city called Hyderabad in South India.
Okay. And so I talked to somebody else from India, and they were talking about how in India, even though a lot of people don't eat, a lot of people are vegetarian. Um, in India, like milk is sacred to drink. Like everybody drinks milk. Was that tough to give up?
Yeah, that was the worst. That was the toughest. Although I turned vegan in one day, uh, the culture of milk ingrained here is quite a lot. We are as far away from a vegan society as could be possible, especially with respect to dairy and yogurt and derivatives of dairy. So
Gotcha.
it's very
Uh,
difficult to go to a restaurant and actually have dairy-free food.
gotcha. So you learned how to cook then. Do you cook a lot of your food?
Actually, no, but I have a very accommodating family, so we have switched to all vegan alternatives.
Oh, awesome. Cool. All right. So let's get to it. So you have a bunch of questions for me, and I liked all of them that I saw. So go ahead and ask whichever ones you want, and if you have other questions that weren't on that list, go for that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is new for me, right? This is the first time on any platform, and
Mhm.
veganism as such, I've only been vegan for the last few months,
Okay.
and I have started doing activism for the last 1 month, street outreach. So my first question for you was why how you came about naming your channel Reasonable Vegan.
Okay. Yeah. So I have another channel, just my name, Carson Hughes, and I've had that for over a year, and that one's about politics and philosophy in general. And
Okay.
so since veganism is a big topic for me, I did a handful of vegan videos. I hosted some debates on there, but I mostly focused on other political things. And as soon as the Alex O'Connor thing happened 3 months ago, I started making a bunch of vegan videos on that other channel, and I started defending Alex O'Connor because I thought people were being very unreasonable with their reaction to him, and they were like saying they wished he would die and a handful of things like that. And I got a lot of support on that channel for vegan stuff. I started getting a lot of subs, but then people that went to that channel for vegan stuff, as soon as I put out talks I did on like abortion and circumcision and stuff like that, they started unsubbing. And then as soon as I put vegan videos up, all the people that were there for like the abortion and circumcision and death penalty type talk, they started unsubbing. So I
Okay.
figured for now, while being a small channel over there, that I might as well make a separate vegan channel so I can focus on veganism there. And the name basically came from finding so many vegans to be unreasonable when it came to Alex O'Connor and various other situations where I'd watch people be what I would call unreasonable.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, what would be the reasonable way to approach a situation like Alex O'Connor's?
Um, it would be something like, so I saw a handful of comments to Alex saying, no judgment, but I am curious why you stopped being vegan, what led to it. So just being friendly and genuine and being curious what led to it, and then um, so anything that's not attacking, like I don't think it's reasonable to say that you wish somebody was dead, or to say to call somebody a monster and say, oh, you're taking all these lives, because in my mind the reasonable take on Alex would be that most people grew up and spend their whole lives eating meat, dairy, and eggs. And Alex, being an ethical person that's into ethics and philosophy, thought it through after being challenged and decided that he wanted to stop harming animals. And so he stopped eating meat, dairy, and eggs, just like the rest of us vegans. And due to certain circumstances, As far as we know, he added some back. We don't know if that means like one fish a month or one fish a week, one fish a day. We know there's a little more than fish, but we don't know to any extent that he is causing a wild amount of harm to animals. And so in my mind, like anybody doing something is good. If even the idea of like meatless Mondays or whatever, because I know animals can suffer and I don't want them to. And so if anybody cuts back or is spreading messages about it, like for example, I know a lot of people were thrown off by his talk with Peter Singer, and they think Peter Singer was saying outrageous things. But at very least, looking at Alex was saying a lot of amazing things about how we should view animals and animal ethics. And so him having this large platform, making people, whether they become vegan or not, making them think about animal ethics, I just think he's such an important voice that I don't think people should lie and hide their feelings because he's an important voice, but I think their feelings should change based off how valuable Alex is, like how important he is to the animals. Like knowing that when he talks and people hear him, that's going to save animal lives, and it's gonna make people either cut back on eating animals or go vegan or vegetarian or whatever. I feel like that should make people not attack him. And so I think the reasonable thing would be to not attack him.
Yeah, got you. Actually, this happened a little very shortly after I turned vegan. So my initial reaction was a little bit heated. In fact, one of the responses I gave to your video was that this is invariably going to cause more harm, not to animals, but to the vegan movement.
Mm.
So, what is your opinion on that?
Um, I definitely think people seeing vegans attack him will cause harm to the vegan movement.
Definitely.
But if you're wondering him stopping being vegan, if that will hurt the vegan movement, in a some way, yes. Anybody that sees somebody go vegan and stop being vegan, it might make them question if it's okay, if it's achievable to be vegan and stay healthy. But overall, I don't think so. Like the only way to know for sure would be to see how many people that he's turned vegan, how many people that see his videos that will turn them vegan in the future, even though he's not vegan, and compare that to how many people truly want to be vegan, but because of Alex, they go, "Oh, I was going to, but he stopped." I don't think there's any likelihood that it's a higher number that it would hurt the vegan movement. Because a lot of people that were attacking him and some people that were nice to him were saying that he turned them vegan. I saw hundreds of people's comments saying, "Oh, Alex turned me vegan. This is sad to see. I'll be vegan forever." And so I mean, that is what that is. And if Alex turned 1,000 people or 10,000 people vegan, then those 10,000 people are going to be spreading the message and sharing veganism with other people. So it's definitely not a number that we can quantify, but I would say that it's reasonable to assume he's been more helpful than harmful.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yep.
Somebody has a question for you specifically in the comments, and I've
Sure.
seen this word, but I don't know what exactly it is. The concept of, and then it says AHIMSA.
Ahimsa.
Okay. Somebody wants to know how the concept of that is viewed in India.
Ahimsa basically means non-violence. So that's all there is to it. It is a form of living which excludes violence of all forms. So when taken to its extreme, some religions like Jains, certain Buddhists, they believe that they do not have to cause harm, or they do not have to exhibit violence in any situation. Right. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
I think I'm not an expert in this, but ahimsa basically is non-violence, and in fact, we have shirts which say "Dairy is not ahimsa."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we firmly believe that there is a lot of violence going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So if in at least in my belief, if someone professes to follow ahimsa, then veganism is the only way
Gotcha.
forward.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So can we go to the next question?
Yes.
Yeah. So this was regarding the debate you had with George, I think, where you were debating with in the hypothetical where you had to choose between a person and a dog in a place where there's fire, right?
Hmm.
And whom would you choose?
I would choose a person.
Yeah. By what metric would you use to decide that?
Basically, my understanding that, well, my knowledge that humans have a want for the future. So it's complicated because the suffering matters as well. So, well, let's say, okay, so in the hypothetical, can we assume that whoever is not saved, the smoke is going to essentially knock them out, and they're not going to be suffering from burning alive?
No, either of them, whichever person you decide to save, the other person is going to die a horrible death.
Okay. Okay, so that does factor it in. Okay, so in both cases, the dog and a person can suffer, and I don't know if there's any way to detect that the level of pain would be worse in a human or not. So I'm going to assume that even though it's a dog and it's smaller, for what it feels, I'm gonna call the pain equal for both. So if the pain is equal for both, and therefore stopping the pain of either is it's kind of equal the suffering level, so I can ignore that. So saving one or the other, I do think it matters if somebody has like a care of existing or a will to live. Now, since we cannot know for sure if animals care that they exist or have a will to live, I don't think we should harm them. I don't think it's fair to, if we could just snap our fingers and end the life of an animal. I don't think it's fair to do that just because it doesn't have a will to live. But it makes me care less about its existence. So, like me, I know I want to live to tomorrow and the next day and years from now. I want to see my kids grow up. I want to see grandkids and stuff like that. Where a dog or other animals, they might have this instinct to survive because that's they evolved that way. And so if something's trying to hurt them, they will stop that thing from hurting them. But if we could add as much intelligence as possible to get, not intelligence, but if we could add the ability to communicate with a dog, if I could make a dog speak English and anything that it knows, if I could say, do you care that you exist? Do you want to exist tomorrow? If that dog were to say, I don't know what existing is, and they even in dog knowledge couldn't understand existing, then I would say I don't care if it continues to exist. Similarly to a person, if there is a person that I know dies, like on my street corner, if somebody got killed but there was no suffering, my, I've thought about this experiment before. The only thing that I can imagine of why I feel sad would be, one thing would be that if there's people that love that person, they're going to be sad they're gone. So let's imagine nobody cares about that person. The other thing would be, I know I want to live. So I think maybe they wanted to live. And so I would feel bad they didn't get to continue. Anything else would just be me putting my ideas on them. Like I could know a movie's coming out next week and I can say it's sad they didn't get to see it, but I don't even know if they wanted to see it. So that doesn't matter. So the only immoral thing that I can logically think of for ending something's life would be that thing not wanting to end. So since I know humans have that and I don't know about animals, I choose the human. But I think, even though that's my main reason, even if I didn't have that reason, I think if I just had to choose one to one, a dog or a human, I think I would choose the human anyway, due to maybe a respect of my own species. I would want somebody to choose me. So I think it's maybe important to have this value of our own species, but I'm not sure.
Okay. No, because if somebody says that they are going to save the dog, considering that the dog is incapable of inflicting harm to somebody else in the future, whereas we do not know whether the human is going to do good or net have a net negative impact on society later on, right?
Hmm.
So, if that argument has been made that they will save the dog, I find that problematic, because if I remove the dog from the equation and now just put the man inside who's in the burning building, and the choice is between saving that person or not saving that person, then even then the same argument would hold.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because then also you would say I wouldn't save the person because there's going to be net because the dog doesn't matter, the dog is dying, the dog is a victim, the dog doesn't care whether I'm saving the man or I don't want to save the man, the dog is dying anyway, so I'm just removing the dog from the equation. Now if I have somebody who's willing to always save the dog instead of the person, then if they are given the choice whether to save a person or not to save a person, what would their answer be?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that is a good point. And I think this comes down to if people had more information. Some people would say if the person was a carnist, they would not save them because they're going to harm people. And in my mind, I have not been convinced that that's the route to go. There's a comment here that pertains to what we're talking about, so I wanted to bring it up to get your thoughts. So
Sure.
has vegan, which anybody listening that doesn't know Has Vegan should find him and subscribe to his channel. He does amazing stuff. That's HAZ and then vegan. But anyways, he says dogs are persons/people too. Animals are not its. So I am curious your thoughts on this. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's accurate wording to say that they're persons or people, but I've seen a lot of people that think it's not good for us to continue to say it when referring to animals. Now, this is just a matter of semantics. I don't think there's any actual harm, but so the idea is that if we refer to them as them, or is that them? Is that what we should use instead of it? That it makes people not view it as a thing. So, anyways, do you think that matters?
Well, I'm a doctor, and for most of my life, even while referring to babies, sometimes I use the word it, not as a
Mm-hmm.
form of disrespect or this thing, but at that moment, whatever came to my head, and if I was not sure about the gender, when I actually deal with animals individually, I always make sure to refer to them as he or she or whatever gender that animal is. But for me, it's mostly semantics. I mean, I don't think as long as your intent is to be vegan, uh, but this is entirely my point of view. I don't have any evidence or statistics to back the claim that using it or not using it is going to make a difference. So I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fair point. If I could see, if I could magically know if it would be better for the vegan movement or for how people treat animals to change my language, then I would. But I'm similar to you. I don't know if other people are like us, but when I talk about a baby, I say it. When I talk about an animal, I say it. But for some reason, when I talk about a 5-year-old, I won't say it anymore. So humans, I'll start saying they if I don't know a gender. And but for some reason, maybe the less I can communicate with the person, I or the dog or the animals, I say it, and I don't mean any disrespect. And so it's something we should think about. I think there's nothing wrong with Has pointing it out, but similar to how I think people were unreasonable with Alex, I don't think anybody should be unreasonable with people on this topic. If somebody says, "Hey, I think it would be best if you didn't say it," and then the other person goes, "Yeah, I know what you mean. I get it, but that's just what I do, and I don't mean any offense, so I'm going to keep doing it." I would recommend not pushing the person on it. Uh, Squabbles like that, I don't think matter too much. But yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, what's yeah?
yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just going to ask what your next question was, but you could say whatever you're going to say.
Yeah, I've been communicating with Has. Hopefully, we'll be doing a video sometime soon, and I'll bring this up. But one thing is, if it is definitely proved to be, I mean, shown that using it is going to be harmful, then I have absolutely no problem making that effort, because it's a small effort to uh, codify that in your head and call them only he and she. I don't think that's such a big of an effort for someone to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Also, so Has said, if you use they as a genderless word for referring to humans, why not extend that to non-animals? And then Has also says, if you view veganism as a social justice issue, language is paramount and important. The reason I wanted to read those is I think something that I noticed that's happening with us smaller channels. There's a handful of us that started our channels, or at least got active with them about 3 months ago when I started mine. And Haz is one of them, and Christina Van Beek, and Vegan Pundit, and anyways, there's a whole bunch. There's probably about a dozen or 2 dozen of us, and we all keep doing conversations on each other's channels, and then we'll talk to people like you that don't have channels, maybe soon. And I think this is one of the coolest things anybody should do. Everybody should start a YouTube channel and have conversations. Now, making separate videos where you make like well planned out videos, that's really cool too. It's not my thing. Because in my mind, what changes the world is conversations. But even within the vegan movement, us challenging each other on these ideas, like the word it can lead to a better future. Now, I don't think I'm going to change my mind on this thing, and hopefully people don't view me too poorly for that. But I've heard many things from many vegans on YouTube that make me rethink my ideas. Even this morning, I thought of an idea I've never thought of because I was reading a question by somebody that follows my channel named Gigi, and I love that these conversations keep leading us to figuring out best ways for how to view animals and view veganism. And anyways, I just want to point out that we should keep having these conversations and push each other, but not at a level that's maybe negative. It's just throwing out ideas and seeing what we each agree with.
Got fair enough. Yep. So I'll proceed to the next question, which yeah. So this is the debate against outreach and taking a welfarist position versus a rights-based position, and which is do you think will be more beneficial in the short term and in the long term?
Gotcha. Well, so I think a welfare position is a rights position. We, depending on the level of welfare, that is a right. So if we're talking about something like cutting out the teeth and tails of pigs for factory farming, and let's say that I wanted to spend a lot of my time advocating for legal changes. I don't know if you remember, Peter Singer was talking about how in the UK there were some new laws involving like chicken farms and stuff like that.
Yes.
So similar to those things, and I love when I hear that that little wins like that happen. I would love it if it was illegal to cut off tails and teeth of pigs, and therefore, because they would cannibalize each other, to make it illegal to cram them in such tiny cages that they would cannibalize each other. And somebody would call that a welfare approach. I'm not pushing the ultimate vegan message when I talk about that. I'm pushing the idea of legislation, making it so it is illegal to cut off teeth and tails. Now, you can call that welfare, but that is also rights. If I don't have a tail, but if my teeth were getting cut off and my ears were getting cut off, I would want the right to have my teeth in my ears. And so similar to how slavery used to be okay and women used to not be able to vote and witches used to be burned at the stake, if we had laws that were making it so I was a slave of some kind and my teeth were getting cut off and my ears were getting cut off, I would view it as a rights-based focus to make it so even though I could legally be a slave and somebody can own me, they can't legally cut my teeth off and my ears off, that if they were found to have done that, they would get a fine or go to jail or something like that. And we call that welfare, but welfare is a right. We have a right, or at least a right as far as what we want. Us vegans want rights for animals. Same would go for humans. We want the right to not be harmed or killed. So it doesn't mean that when you fight for rights, you only fight for the right to live. You fight for the right to live well, I would say. So anyways, I wanted to point that out, but still the question comes down to, is it better to focus on something like the welfare rights versus the right to live? I think it's kind of both. Anytime I talk to anybody about any ideas within welfarism or reductionism, the idea of veganism will come up. The overall liberation of animals, that will come up. But I would say it seems clearly obvious to me that the push for individual legislation has got to be more important. Because once something's put into law, then that's official. It doesn't matter if people agree with it or not. It becomes something that is illegal to do. It's like the most important thing in any society is that it's illegal to kill people. And even though some people might still kill people, it's very important that that's in law because it makes it so people are less likely to, and then if they do and they get caught, they get punished for it. So, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I'll circle back to the welfare thing, but a little bit. I wanted to ask you about the law part of it. So, if you had to grant laws affording rights to animals, what would they be?
Okay, so right now, I do not feel comfortable making laws prohibiting the killing or eating of animals. I think that will come with time and more studies to make it concrete that we don't need to consume animals. So if I were to have laws go into place now, I think I feel comfortable putting laws in place against dairy. I think it would be safe to say that it should be illegal to take dairy from cows. It should be illegal to remove calves from their mothers. I would even extend it to I think it should be illegal to forcefully impregnate animals. If farms have cows, they basically have to keep the cows so natural to the point where they're able to mate on their own. Um, I would definitely remove the cutting of tails and teeth. Um, let's see. I wish I knew I think one thing we'd have to look into is the numbers of what makes animals closer to like what they would do in nature. So if you remember, Peter Singer was talking about the amount of chickens that could be in an area, that if you had a certain amount, it would make the grass not grow any further based on how fast they eat it and trample it. Where if you had a certain number, is like a number per hectare or whatever, then the grass would grow. They're running around, they're having a good time, and then whatever happens, happens. So I would say at this point, I don't feel comfortable outlawing the eating of animals. That I want to change hearts and minds. But as far as legal harm, like I don't think we should be able to just randomly stab a cow and have it bleed out, or stab a dog. So I think anything involving unneeded harm is not good. Now my overall view would be that I don't think anybody needs to eat animals, harm animals, have any connection to them. All animals should be removed from us, and we should never force an animal to be in a certain area. But legally, what I listed is about where I stand, but I also would add in a legal element to owning pets. I would say that I feel more comfortable saying that it should be legal to eat animals, but not legal to own pets. So,
Okay,
yeah.
interesting. So, a couple of things. One thing is when you're talking about welfare and especially practices like cutting of tails and removal of teeth, you mentioned, right?
Hmm.
So I have actually read in your comment section and a few others that this is actually done for the welfare of the other animals within the same thing, right? So when you're arguing for an individual right of one pig to not have its teeth removed or tail cut off, you're automatically arguing against the rights of the other ones who are getting bitten, whose tails are getting bitten. So what would be your response for that?
Yeah, so if something needs to be done to cause less harm, that's good, even though it's bad. So spaying and neutering domesticated cats and dogs, it's a horrible act. I don't think that should have to happen. But since it's causing less animals to be bred into existence, it's a good thing. So if the laws allow a certain amount of like pigs to be in an area to where they're biting each other's tails off and therefore getting infected, and it's causing more suffering, then I get the idea of adding that in. But I think that's based only on cramming them into small areas. I think if you had, I don't think they cut the teeth and tails of like free range pigs. If they have pigs like on a farm, even though they're going to eat those pigs eventually, the pigs just run around, they do their thing, they don't harm each other, they have plenty of food. I don't know if the cannibalizing of pigs is based off only how small of an area they're in, or if they're accidentally or intentionally starved or anything like that. But yes, I do get that bad things might have to happen to prevent more bad things. I would just want to know the numbers. If I was wrong, if any pigs at all living near each other are going to eat each other's tails and cutting their teeth out stop that, then I guess that would be a good thing. But I just don't think that's the case.
All right. I'll have to do some reading up on that
Yeah.
uh, to find that out. So, if I were in charge of a, let's say, medium industrial scale farm, right, where farming is animal farming is going on, and I want to have a more welfareist perspective, so I invest a lot of money into R&D to improve the welfare part of the animals, right?
Hmm.
So maybe I hire a scientist who makes vertical cages or make sure each cage is like a mini paradise for the animal, right?
Hmm.
So that could be one situation. My question is it better to spend all that R&D on actual welfare rather than looking at alternative sources of food production itself instead of animals, the plants?
I think we would have to think of what will have a better outcome, what's going to affect animals more. And we can't know for sure, so we have to use our reasoning and figure out what's going to have a bigger effect. I would say I can even take it to an extreme. I would say, so if I was a millionaire or a billionaire, um, if I couldn't change laws effectively or hearts and minds of people, I think one of the best things I could probably do is find places that I thought were truly free range, grass fed, like good companies. And even though I would never purchase animal products for myself, if I knew somebody was not going to stop eating animal products, if I could purchase millions of dollars of meat and eggs that came from less suffering than other places and gave it to people that were going to eat the animal products anyways, and therefore those people weren't paying the factory farms, I think that would be a good thing. And so that's probably the extreme I could bring it to while being good. It's the good version of purchasing meat. If I had a friend that could not afford to get free range stuff and they weren't going to stop eating animals, if I could supply all the meat and eggs they were going to eat for the rest of their lives with stuff that was causing less suffering, I would think that would be a good approach to do. Now, I don't think that would be where somebody should put all of their efforts. I think efforts are probably best put into something like conversations and changing hearts and minds. Like the reason we hear, I don't know what the big topics are in India or how voting affects politicians and whatnot in India. But in the U.S., the things we hear about the most are things like abortion laws, like Roe v. Wade being overturned. And right now, it's really big talking about circumcision and talking about global warming and all these things. Because the majority of people are talking about it and have an interest in it, it makes the politicians that want to be voted in taking those up as things to talk about. So I think what we need to do and put our focus in is anything that will get the majority of people talking about a topic. So if we vegans spend time going out trying to make more vegans, and that makes a couple vegans here and there, that's great. But what if we vegans went out and started, what if every vegan tomorrow just started like talking on social media, talking to people in real life, talking about the situation with pigs and their teeth and tails getting cut. And all these meat eaters are all like, I love meat. I'm not going to give up meat. I love bacon even, but I do not want a baby pig to have its teeth cut out. And you get everybody in the world talking about this thing, and then politicians put that into place. I think that likely is the best focus, or something like that, something that is most likely to actually happen.
Well, I would argue that if I had millions of dollars, I would invest it partially in, as you said, changing hearts and minds, but I would invest rest of it in something like maybe lab grown meat and give it free of cost to those who are not going to change their minds.
Definitely. I think lab grown meat is probably going to be the thing. Because once people eat lab grown meat or go vegan, they look back and go, oh man, it was horrible what people did.
Yeah, I
But
didn't have.
when people currently eat animals, they can't think of it that way. So I think lab grown meat will turn the world vegan. So I was going to a worst case scenario that I thought was still good, which was buying the free range stuff. But I think the best case scenario is probably that. I don't know if I can top that. If I had billions of dollars and I could throw away $1 billion, I would put that right into lab grown meat for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. So would I. So the next part is okay. I am not an expert in any uh, uh, to any extent as far as philosophy is concerned, but I think I heard about deontology and the different forms of consequentialism from I think Jeremy Gold from one of his earlier talks with Christina. And then I started watching your talk with him. So where does your ethical framework fall? I mean, if it does anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. I'm glad you asked that because I think a lot of people think I'm utilitarian, especially when it comes to animals, and I might have even have thought that myself. But honestly, even though I'm obsessed with philosophy and I love talking about philosophical things, I don't usually go to labels. So, from my understanding of utilitarianism, it's it's it, it's the good for all. So, like, if one of the best ways I've heard it talked about as far as why utilitarian is not good is if pleasure outweighs pain, then if five guys sexually assaulted one lady and the five guys got so much more pleasure compared to the pain the lady got, then a utilitarian calculus would call that good. But that's not how I view things in any form. I don't I think pleasure is good. We all seek pleasure, but I don't really care about people getting pleasure. I just care about people causing suffering and harm to others. So I don't view any of my thoughts as a utilitarian way. Um, I everything's rights to me. So if animals are legally allowed to be harmed and they're being harmed, the reason I want people to reduce and there to be good welfare for animals is because I want them to have the rights, those rights. And it's easier to extend to have those rights for humans because we already have them. And so I guess it would be deontology, but I don't know. It's not something I've really looked into. It's not a term I really use. I just I think rights are man made. I think nature doesn't care about us. Nature doesn't give us any rights. We individually afford rights to each other. If I can legally, so I don't know if you guys have freedom of speech in India.
Yes.
Do you have? Okay, I know a lot of countries don't, and so I've heard that the U.S. is kind of unique in that sense. But so if you have freedom of speech, we have freedom of speech. I could be within 10 feet of you and talking to somebody else, and I could say something horrible about you, but I don't want to offend you, so I would afford you the right to not being offended by me to not do that, even though I legally can. And so same thing, I can legally eat animals, but I afford them the rights personally. But each of us individually doing that, in a sense, means nothing to me. I care about if there's an actual action that is bad. The law has to come in and take care of that. Something needs to be put into law. And so anyways, I'm just rambling now, but hopefully that explains it. I don't think I'm a utilitarian in any form. What do you think?
I would say whether you are utilitarian, consequentialist, or deontology, your framework should include sentient beings. That's the only thing.
Hmm.
As long as it includes sentient beings, then you will naturally and reasonably end up at with an abolitionist perspective. I mean, I do not see
Yeah.
any way of not ending up there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let me bring a hypothetical to you, and then I'm going to bring up a couple questions over here.
Sure.
Hypothetically, if humans were carnivores, so not omnivores, if we had to eat meat to survive, would you say that based on our ability to reason, we should just let our species die off? Or would you say that it's acceptable for humans to eat animals?
If if humans were obligate carnivores,
Yeah.
yep. Then that's a great question because I am antenatal, right? I do not believe in having children. If I ever wanted, I would adopt, but I'm not going to ask anybody or force anybody or even tell anybody to do this, right?
Hmm.
So I'll have to think about this, but I'm kind of yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what from a deontologic perspective, if I have to afford non-human animals the same value and same rights that I afford to human animals,
Hmm.
then that will be a problem because then I
Yeah.
would have no justification in eating or consuming animals for my survival.
Okay. Well,
At,
let me
at,
make
at
it a
the same
little
time, yeah,
let me make it a little simpler for you. So it would be tough to decide if you would be willing to kill 100 animals a year to survive if you're a carnivore. But what if you were stuck on an island and you were hoping to be rescued and you had to eat, like, say, 10 or 20 chickens or pigs or something to survive? Would
I
you do
wouldn't.
that? Oh, you wouldn't? Okay. Well, I guess that answers the question then. It doesn't answer the question if you think it's acceptable for others, but at least for yourself. So that's
In fact,
good.
if there was a human instead of animals in that desert island and me,
Mhm.
then I would probably enter a contract with the human and decide whoever dies first will be eaten by the other person. But I wouldn't have such. I cannot do that with animals. Second
Okay.
thing is, I'm sure if there are 10 animals, I'm sure they are eating something. So I'll figure out somewhere to eat what they are eating instead of eating them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But luckily, in the hypothetical, you can't get around it. You can't find
I
what
got,
they're
I got,
eating.
yeah, I got that.
But okay, so that's interesting, and I don't know if people would act differently than they claim in a situation like that. But I take your word for it.
Yeah,
So I
definitely. There's no way of you knowing whether I would be for
right.
anybody to know. That's an unfalsifiable thing. So I get that.
Yeah. So yeah, I like so in my mind, I try to be as realistic as possible. I'm pretty sure I know I want to survive and live, so I would kill and eat any animal and probably any human. I like don't be scared to be on an island with me. I would hold out as long as I could, but I would probably kill humans to eat them, and that would just be a survival thing. And so I think when it comes the reason I if humans were carnivores, I would still give other humans rights and I wouldn't eat them, but I would eat whatever animals I needed to, and I wouldn't eat more than I needed to. I wouldn't be an overweight carnivore. Is because I think if the most important thing to us is survival, then we have to have a contract with each other, us reasoning people like within our species of in our society, we have these laws and rules. You don't kill me, I don't kill you. You don't steal from me, I don't steal from you. You don't hurt me, I don't hurt you. And then we feel safe. And outside of that, then when it comes to animals, because they can't have that contract with us, I can't tell a lion, you don't kill me, I don't kill you. They don't understand that. So with animals, that's just us extending, affording rights to them of what we won't do to them. And I think that's a moral thing. Where the human thing, I don't think that's a moral. I think it can be moral as well. I can morally choose not to kill a human on an island. But the reason I mostly won't harm a human and I'll harm animals before humans is because of this mutual benefit. But then when it comes to animals, it's a moral thing. And so I will eat what I need to eat to survive, or I'll harm what I need to harm to make shelter. I'll cut down a tree, even if there's birds living in it, because I need shelter for my survival. But once I'm fine and my loved ones are fine and fellow humans are fine, I would hate to ever put any harm on any animal, and because that's just such nonsense. People are so addicted to meat, they love the taste that they're willing to just not think about it. But as soon as you think about it, it's such a silly idea that you have all this food that you can be perfectly healthy on and survive on, but you would harm these animals. You'd cut teeth out. You'd put chicks in grinders. It's just so despicable. And I can't remember what the original question was, but I'm going to stop rambling right there.
The question was the desert hypothetical with animals.
Oh, yeah.
Um, in fact, with your hypothetical regarding us being obligate carnivores, I would be totally fine if there was contract between, let's say, terminally ill people and people who are going to definitely die, and they voluntarily offer of their. I mean, I would prefer eating them rather than to eat animals, or because
Hmm.
for me, eating animals would be akin to, in that situation, would be akin to eating children. So
Okay.
where I cannot enter into a contract with them. So yeah, that would be my solution in that case.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's complicated. I only brought that up because we were talking about laws and extending the rights to animals. And the reason I brought it up is I don't think our studies are as concrete as they would need to be for me to put laws saying that we can't eat animals. And so that's why I brought it to the extreme of, if we were carnivores, how would we treat that? And so yeah. Um,
Yeah, got you.
there was a question I was going to ask. Somebody brought something up. He's doing Holocaust. Somebody said reasonable vegan said he would Holocaust billions of animals. I don't know what that's referring to. They said people eating lab grown meat is not vegan, and then there's an image of a face palm. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm assuming okay. So there was recently some scientists grew a ball of mammoth meat, right, from a mammoth fossil.
Mm-hmm.
Not for eating purposes, but for just to prove it can be done scientifically, whatever it is. I'm sure it's not healthy for eating it, but if we were going to use, let's say, fossils of animals to grow lab grown meat, it is going to be a food industry with, and any food industry will have its suffering. I'm not talking about animal suffering, any suffering, but
Mm-hmm.
I do not see why it is less vegan than uh, not killing animals.
Yeah, yeah. The only, I think the only problem is like the biopsy. So the thing you're referring to, which I've heard that there is lab grown meat options of not needing a biopsy, but for a while it was talked about of how you would have to, inject a needle into a cow, do a biopsy, pull a piece out, and then grow it from there. And I would say, even though yes, that's harming a cow doing the biopsy, like who cares compared to the amount of animals that are dying. But on top of that, maybe one of the things I'd be curious if David is in here. This guy I talked to quite a bit named David that says it's not vegan to eat roadkill. I wonder if the idea that since the original idea of veganism is to not view animals as a commodity, then the growing of animals would be the same thing. It's animal flesh derived from growing in a lab what is the same as inside of an animal. But I think it's so silly, and I mean no offense when I call it silly. I think it's silly to care about something that isn't sentient. So lab grown meat, not sentient. Roadkill, not sentient. Somebody doing taxidermy of having like an animal art, whatever. It's if it's not alive, it's not sentient. I just don't care about it, especially compared to what we currently have.
Yep. I wouldn't consider lab grown meat, especially with my hypothetical, as anything to do with sentience. As far as roadkill is concerned, I wouldn't consume roadkill, only because I'm sure it will, if it's allowed to decompose. I guess it will help more creatures around, and I don't need to eat roadkill at all.
Hmm.
I have to do research on taxidermy, because instinctively I would say I'm against it, but I haven't thought about it at all. But with
Gotcha.
lab grown meat, that too from fossils, if it's possible, then I have no issues with,
Gotcha.
as long
Um,
as there's no victim or a sentient victim inside.
Gotcha. I'm going to read one more comment before your next question. So Daniel said to me, "Your idea of supporting free range is odd. Why not buy land, plant food forests?" So the reason for support, I don't support free range. I just I look at things as this rather than this. I would rather, if a pig's going to be eaten, it gets to keep its teeth up until it's eaten. I would rather less suffering than more suffering. And so, even though, yes, I can buy land and make a food forest, that would be good for homeless people. That would be good for non homeless people that need food. And it might be good for, if I'm talking somebody into being vegan, they can have free food from this forest. The reason I would support with my money free range eggs or something like that is for the people that are going to buy them anyways. So if every time, let's say I knew that this farm was truly free range, not just the label, is free range in the way that Peter Singer talks about it in that conversation. If I could buy up all the free range eggs to support this company that has a truly free range one, and every time somebody went to buy factory farm eggs, I said, you don't have to buy it, here's a free dozen. And assuming in this hypothetical, nobody's going to eat more because I'm doing this, they're just going to get it free from me and not put money into it, then that's going to have the demand for those factory farmed eggs. The demand is going to go down. Those companies will not have the chickens in horrible conditions, and the eggs that people eat will be coming from less suffering than more. So that would cause less suffering than if I purchased land to make a food forest. But also, I'd love to make a food forest. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm ready for your next question.
Yeah. So with regard to eggs, I'm sure if Mr. Singer, he's going to live on eggs which are laid. I mean, from chicken which hens which lay 300 eggs a year. That's a problem. I'd rather give them birth control so that they don't have to go through the constant egg laying process. Anyway, the next question is about India, right? From my outreach, we have a very one specific kind of person that we come across who literally own cows or are one generation away from owning a cow or one city away from owning a cow. So either their family owns one, or I mean they have a dairy whatever industry of their own, but they're limited to just one house, and there are thousands of people like this, right? So now when we argue with them, the only refrain that we hear is that our cows are happy, our bulls are happy, our calves are happy, and all of them are fed, and we consume them whatever their products only after uh, their needs are taken care of. So this is one of the commonest arguments I've had when I'm doing vegan outreach, right? And the end point for me is to convince them to let those animals go extinct because their whole life is suffering, and these guys need to find alternate ways of food production, even if they're not running it as a business but for their own home needs. Yeah. So how would you go about like addressing this particular thing?
Yeah. So are they're using them for milk? Is that correct?
Milk, yes. Milk,
Okay.
dairy. Milk has infinite number of derivatives here, so it's used in almost every recipe.
Yeah. So my reaction to that, my favorite go-to is just imagining if it was humans. So asking them to imagine, okay, so what if your wife or your daughter or your mother, like some aliens came down, some kind of species that was more powerful than us, and they wanted to farm us, and they would imagine everything that they said about their cows. Oh, we keep them happy. We let the women watch their favorite TV shows, and we feed them food, but we connect their breasts to a machine and pump their milk out, and they get no say in that. I'm guessing most people would feel that that's not good. Now, if you add in the element of having this animal that's bred to do this going extinct, then with the human idea, you would just add in an element of these humans that this is happening to. Imagine that they were bred in a way to become so unintelligent that they can't survive on their own. It's still immoral to force them into this area, even if you're going to feed them and keep them alive. Because I imagine for myself, if a species came down and said they were more powerful than us, so they could overpower us, and they were just having me in a small area, I don't think I would want to continue if I had no way to escape and eventually live my own life. feeding me and keeping me well is not good. It'd be like when there was slavery, and if you bought a slave and said, "I'm going to treat you really well. You can't leave. You're a slave. You're going to live here, but you're going to have the best food, and you don't have to work for me." There's something about that, keeping something that is sentient in a place where they can't leave, just for our own taste buds. So the only thing that I would find acceptable from that person you're talking to is if they were convinced they needed it for health. If they if
Uh,
they if, if they if they valued their own health above it. But if they're going to eat unhealthy ice cream full of sugar and stuff that's made from dairy, then they're saying, I'm willing to force this thing to be here for my own taste buds. And if they don't
yeah,
find that ridiculous themselves, then that's because they haven't thought it through.
the problem is it's very difficult to argue with them by giving them hypotheticals, because this is a part of this is ingrained in their lives. I mean, literally, there are a bunch of people telling me that they don't even tie their cows. I mean, the cows are free to go and they come back every night, and I mean, that is the argument. I mean, let's say they're
Mm,
saying the truth, right? Their calves are also well fed. They first feed the calves, and whatever extra milk is there, only that they use.
mm,
And the calves are also kept. They are not separated from the mothers at birth. So this is the argument that we get. I mean, it's not about, for them, the animals are living a very happy life, and
mm,
they're all vegetarian. They don't consume animal flesh.
mm.
So this is only about dairy, although that causes more suffering. I mean, I would rather they eat the cow rather than perpetuate its suffering like this. But the question is, it's very difficult to. I mean, unless I give them alternatives, I have no ground to stand on.
Yeah. No, it becomes trickier when you add in all the elements. Because yeah, if they don't remove the baby calf and the calf can drink milk, and there's not the emotional part of removing it from the mom, they're not using the calf for veal, um, and are they still doing the forced in? Are they putting the sperm in by
No, no,
reaching
this
their
is
hand in?
natural. They
Okay.
consider it from bull and cow, and
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I think the only element that would be worth that the only argument that even makes sense would be, are you forcing the cow to be in an area when you milk it? If you walk up to a cow in nature and there's no fences and it's just out in the wild, and you pretend you're a baby cow and you just put your mouth on its udder and you're going to drink milk from it. If it doesn't move, I compared to everything else in the world, I barely care. But obviously, I would think the cow would move. So if the cows are bred to be scared to move from you, or if you have to tie it to a rope, if you have to bring it into a building to milk it, then there's an issue. But honestly, I mean, there's a good chance the people you're talking to are lying to you. But let's assume they're not. If somebody has a huge amount of space where cows can go wherever they want, cows can mate on their own, give birth, feed their calves, and the only thing that these humans are doing are going up to the cow and getting milk from it, and the cow's not trying to take off at all, I would say that's I would call it the least of my worries, I guess.
Okay, fine, got it. I think I'm out of time. It's supposed to be 1.5 hours, right?
Oh, you're fine. I'm good for another like 20 minutes. It's
No,
up
no,
to you.
I'll have to go.
Oh,
It's very
oh,
late.
you're out of time. I see. Gotcha.
It's pretty late in India right now. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I'll probably stay on here and answer some questions here, but let's do another talk, and I look forward to seeing you and Has talk as well.
Definitely, definitely. As soon as possible.
All
Thanks a
right.
lot.
Sounds good. Yep. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
All right. I'm going to go through and answer some questions here, and then I have a handful of other questions. So if anybody has any questions, please put at Reasonable Vegan, because I'm probably going to skip through the conversations on here that you guys have with each other, and I'll probably check those out later. Okay, so Contrarian 420 says, I agree, reasonable. I do believe that mankind is more advanced than animal kind, but they are still our little brothers and sisters and deserve consideration and protection whenever possible. Exactly. Yep. Whenever possible. Marcelo, I don't know if you got a chance to add it again later, but I am curious what you're talking about where I said, that I would holocaust billions of animals. Now that might be referring to if I said like maybe I care more about one person than billions of animals or something. But yeah, or like my own life, I wouldn't sacrifice my life for billions of animals. But I'd be curious which thing you're talking about. Okay, let me skim through. Once I get to the bottom of these comments, I have a couple very important comments, questions on another page that I want to get to. Let's see, veganism, it's about opposing animal exploitation and stop seeing animals as commodities. That's why if you eat roadkill, you commodified animals. Yeah, but it depends. Like, so my question to you would be, why do you care about animals? And then I'm going to assume your answer would be, I care about animals because they're sentient. And then that just comes down to, okay, so roadkill is not sentient, so it doesn't matter. Roadkill is going to, it's going to turn into dirt, and we're going to use that dirt. We're going to like, you can't just not use dirt. And so if you're going to use dirt out in the world that's full of dirt that has come from decomposed corpses, then what if the only dirt was that? So what if you took roadkill, put it in a box, waited for it to decompose, and then the only thing in there was bones and dirt? Could you use that dirt in your garden? So anyways, I get it. I get the idea of if it's roadkill, it's gross to use. I don't have any interest in using it, but morally, I just don't get it. Let's see, Marcelo, are you vegan? How did you change to vegan? What made you, if you are? Interesting. Okay, that's somebody else talking to somebody else. AV is in here. PETA promotes spaying and neutering. Is PETA violating the rights of animals that roam around freely in society? Yes and no. So I obviously spaying and neutering is horrible. It's a horrible thing. I don't know if most people know, but spaying is not just like tube tying. It's a full hysterectomy. They are pulling the uterus and everything out of the cats and the dogs, and you have to pay a lot extra if you just want the tubes tied. And neutering's horrible too. It's complicated because different animals have different wants and needs. So the act of mating and that connection to relationships with humans might be different for humans than, say, for animals like cats and dogs, where they're acting almost completely off instinct. But in my mind, it's depressing to take something that has natural wants and change that around. You see it with pets, dogs and cats. Well, mostly dogs will like hump stuffed animals and stuff, even though they're neutered. So, anyways, I think it's not good. But it's better than the other option. It's better than having these animals. They're domesticated. They're forced to be with us. They have no control. No, they can't do anything. If there were a bunch of them, they get ran over all the time. So I think spaying and neutering is best in this case. But I think we should really get away from having domesticated animals. It's for our own pleasure. It's not for them. It can't be for them. In moments, it could be for them. Compared to other situations, it could be for them. But overall, them existing, if you could snap right now and make every domesticated cat and dog disappear or not disappear, the not disappear is for us, not for them. PETA euthanizes thousands of animals every year. Close to 100% of animals brought to its shelters are killed. Is this vegan? So this is complicated, but I would say so. Especially if you're against vegan diets for cats and dogs, which I don't know all the numbers on it. I know it's a lot easier for dogs to be vegan than cats, but some people say cats can be. I think optimal health for any animal is important, and I don't think optimal health would come from human-made food. So I don't think domesticated animals are getting optimal health. So again, they're there for us to enjoy them. We like it when they seem to be enjoying things. They lick our face and they seem happy. So we're not completely selfish. We enjoy that these pets seem happy, but they are there for us. They must be. That's just kind of how that works. So anyways, considering that animals eat animals and we kill animals to feed other animals, it becomes complicated when it's like byproduct. when there's we're feeding them with products that if we did not have domesticated animals, a lot of what becomes their food would just go to waste. So we're not necessarily killing a lot more animals for them, but that's complicated. And so, anyways, I would say euthanizing them is probably the best route to go, especially because. Well, I'm just going to go with that. I think it's best. I'm curious to hear, though, what other people think. But I think euthanizing animals is best when you when you link it with the idea of trying to end domestication of animals. Allison said Peter Singer's take on eggs was nothing short of disappointing. I think Peter Singer, and I'm gonna do a reaction video to that Peter Singer talk tomorrow. But I think I'll respond to this. I think that it's kind of misunderstood because overall, I think Peter Singer wants animal liberation. I think he would love for there to be complete animal liberation. But when he talked in that video, he was mostly referring to what's better than what else, like or doing things on occasion or. It's really complicated. So I don't think we should keep chickens locked up. If chickens exist, they should just be out in nature doing their own thing. But if you have a huge area where chickens seem to be having a fine time and they're eating grass and whatever, and they lay eggs and it's a natural state, and we could say that let's say they have no care if that egg becomes anything, and they don't care if there's roosters nearby. It becomes complicated. I don't think we need it. It seems like it's unhealthy for us. But hypothetically, let's say it was healthy for us. I would think it's such a small issue that there's a lot more concern elsewhere. But anyways, I don't agree with that idea. Anyways, I don't think they should exist. But if we're looking at which issues are worse, then there's that. Okay. Let's scroll through. If anybody wants to hop on here too, that's something I've been interested in dabbling in. If anybody wants to, like AV or Allison or any of you guys, if you want to, I can put a link to this live stream, and then you can hop on here, ask a couple questions, and then take off, and then somebody else can do it. I don't need anybody to. You don't need to feel obligated to, but it could be interesting. Okay, AV says New York City has been enticing subway rats with food into a tank filled with alcohol to drown them. These rat traps, let's see. Oh, can accommodate up to 80 rat carcasses. Is this vegan? Part of it would depend on why you're doing it. We have things that we need to do for health, for safety, for various different things, and if we need to do it, we need to do it. But then it comes down to, like, are there other alternatives? What can we figure out? And I think we should constantly be working towards things that don't cause suffering. So the idea is something vegan? You should keep asking that question, but I don't think of things in that way. I think of veganism as extending moral consideration to animals, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to do certain things when we need to. So if these rats are causing harm, if they're destroying foundations in the subway areas, if they are biting people and spreading diseases, then they might need to be stopped. And then when you have that aspect, then we have to figure out what are the best things we could do to make this not happen. And so that is what that is. Hopefully that answered it. Also, during that talk I might have missed some other questions. So if you asked a question and I missed it, I am sorry. I did not intend that. Go ahead and toss it down here and I'll try to get to it. Okay. Saying your life is an extreme... there we go. Saving your life is an extreme example. Is there any other reason for which you will drink milk or eat meat? No, definitely not. I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it would be some form of that. I mean, I don't know to what degree I'd have to feel like I am starving and going to die to do it. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's acceptable. I don't think harming an animal or killing an animal to consume it if you do not need it is acceptable. Um, I I don't think it's best to do something like roadkill, but if you do it, you do it. Drinking milk. I mean, like really, the only thing I could imagine is some wild hypothetical where a cow walks up to a container and somehow the cow can magically shoot milk out of it and shoots it into the container and takes off. Like, I don't think it matters what we do to something left behind unless we knew that they were coming back for it. So if there were wild cows that were pooping in the forest and we can go gather their poop to use as manure, I don't see any problem with that just because it is from a cow. Okay, Marcelo said, you said you would sacrifice billions of animals if your life depended on it, on the vegan gains debate. That's what I remember. No, that's correct. I would. Well, I'd be curious. Any of you guys in here that are watching this, would you sacrifice any animals for your own life? Not. This isn't even a question of would you kill an animal to eat it, but if you had to press a button and 10 deer in the forest were going to die, otherwise you were going to die, would you do it? And I think I would do it in a heartbeat for just about any number of animals, depending on how it affected the ecosystem. I would sacrifice myself to save. There's probably some number of humans out there I would sacrifice myself for. I don't know what that number is. You know what? I don't think there's a number. I take that back. Certain humans. I probably have about maybe 20 humans that I had actually sacrificed myself for, and then there's probably maybe let's just say a couple hundred people that a combination of some of them I would sacrifice myself for. So if we had this element where I had to sacrifice all the animals in the world to save myself, and that was going to mess with the ecosystem, therefore harm all 200 of the loved ones I'm referring to. Sure, I'd sacrifice myself at that point. But if we weren't worried about the ecosystem and then my loved ones being affected, yeah, I'd sacrifice animals for my life. But I'm not vegan because I wouldn't sacrifice animals for my life. I'm vegan because we don't need to harm animals. So, yeah. Let's see. It's more than just roadkill. It's a deep respect for the animal, a decent funeral, if you'd like. Yeah, and different people feel that way. Some people feel levels of respect for various different things. It's just not something that I think about or care too much about. This person, I cannot pronounce their name. Okay, they say, what is your take on hunting a deer if we know he or she will be eaten alive by a lion? Hunt that deer. In any level, yeah. Now somebody might factor in something about like say deer live to be 15 years, and there's a 10-year-old deer that's going to be eaten by a lion when it's 13 or something. So would it be reasonable to hunt a deer when it's 10 versus letting it have 3 good years and be eaten by a lion? Imagining, I think we have to factor in the likelihood that it'll suffer for a good bit longer being eaten by a lion. Now, I'm guessing even though it might look devastating, I'm guessing most animals being eaten in nature, there's probably not a wild amount of suffering. They probably go from the attack to death within under a minute. But I would say that I would rather be shot in the head and die quick than have a lion attack me and I die after a minute. Same for a deer. So I don't know if those extra years really matter to the deer. What I would say is if a lion was about to attack a deer and I knew the deer was going to be killed by the lion, if I could snap my fingers and make that deer dead, I would do it. And if let's say that right then when that happened, not due to me, but the lion happened to die of a heart attack, not due to the deer dying, it was just random. Then if it was healthy and I found the deer meat to taste good, or if somebody else did, I would not consider that immoral. That would be just like the roadkill. But as far as would I, even with the hypothetical of knowing that it's going to die at some point in the future, do I think that we should kill an animal to eat it if we know it's going to be harmed? I don't necessarily think so, but it's complicated. I don't think so, though. Most animals in nature, I think it's around 5% or less make it to adulthood because of how tough nature is. And aside from humans, animals don't have the reasoning to figure out how to extend their lives the way we have. I don't know if we need to call that a good thing or not, but it is what it is. So in that sense, if only 5% make it to adulthood, I don't know if that's the case with deer. I know it is with cheetah, and I know it's even less for turtles. But if deer, it was then knowing that like 95% are going to die these horrible deaths. Well, I don't even know what that would mean, because if you go hunting, you're not hunting the. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling, but those are some thoughts I have there. Has said, in case I missed it, if you knew what is done to bulls in the dairy industry to get females pregnant, not only did not cause the bulls suffering, but gave them enjoyment. Any issue with it? Interesting. Do I find any issue with just the element of jerking off bulls, and they get enjoyment out of it, where you're adding the element of getting enjoyment out of it, so we know that it's not just assuming they would get enjoyment out of it. I don't really. I mean, okay, it'd be similar to the milk thing I said, where if you walk up to a random cow that has not been like threatened in any way, and you go and try to drink from its udder, if it doesn't walk away, I can't imagine caring. That means nothing to me, I think. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me. So same thing. If you walk up to a bull and do that act just because, for whatever reason, and the bull doesn't walk away, I don't know. I don't think I care. It's so far at the bottom of any kind of list if I were to care. Let's see. Okay, Garland Farms. Can you name the trait possessed by a cow that is not possessed by of VOLE? I don't know what that is. That makes the cow's death or suffering more important than the bull's death or suffering. Let me look this up. I don't know this word he's saying. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's learning time. Voles are small rodents. There we go. That are relatives to lemmings and hamsters. But with a stouter body, longer hairy tail, a slightly rounder head, smaller eyes and ears. Okay, cool. So yeah, a vole is a rodent. It's a tiny one, kind of like looks like a mouse a little bit. Okay, so let me go back to the question then. Can you tell me the trait possessed by a cow that is not possessed by? Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't. Which is why I because of you, Garland. It's why I bring up the rodenticide argument, and I talk about if we could detect how much suffering there would be from rodents dying from rodenticides versus cows dying to the suffering that would come from cows to get the steak. The more vegan thing to do would be to consume whatever caused less suffering. It's a topic I want to bring up with some people that might know more about it than I do. But how about fellow vegans in the chat? And obviously, I'm going to need to look this up later and find out, the studies on it. But what would you say? How would you describe the sentience level of a cow versus a rodent? Is there a way we can detect that one would experience less suffering? And I know a lot of people put intelligence into the factoring. I don't know if that's actually a good reason or not, but maybe it is. And so Is there a way that we can detect that there's cows are more intelligent than rodents? Yeah, and I don't know. Would cows do well in those maze studies they do with like mice? But anyways, thanks for the question, Garland, and I'm not sure. I kind of side with you on at least the idea of I care more about the suffering than I care about like which technical animal it is. Let's see. Veganism doesn't entail intentionally killing. Okay. The cow doesn't have nearly as much violation. Okay, so I got to the end of the comments there. I'm going to hop over to comments that were put on my YouTube channel yesterday, and there's a very important one I want to go over. Yes. So here we go. Almost there. I'm almost there. Don't go anywhere, people. Okay. So Gigi. No, not Gigi. This is not Gigi. This is MMHMM. So this person asked me a question yesterday, and I answered it, but I guess I did not answer it well enough, and I'm going to try to answer it here. So this is based on the idea of me talking about that I would save like a human over a certain amount of animals. And that was based on the idea that I know humans have a will to live, and I don't know if animals have a will to live. So the question basically comes down to, I'm going to summarize it because it's a long question, but I'm only going to summarize it because I think the length isn't important based on my answer. So basically what they're saying is if we look at a different topic, like if you had one person that valued their health, like consciously valued their health, and 10 million people that did not value their health whatsoever. If I was like some kind of God being that could make the 10 million unhealthy or the one person unhealthy, would it be better for me to make the 10 million unhealthy because they don't value it? And I think this is kind of a counter to the idea of me caring if an animal values existence. And so here's the problem I find why it's not comparable. Because the reason I'm vegan, the reason I care about animals is sentience. I care about the ability to suffer and feel pain. So if we are going to consider removing something's health, if I had to choose one, if I had to remove health, then if this is causing suffering, then it doesn't matter what they're consciously thinking about or not. I don't care about conscious thought if there's suffering involved. If I had to make something suffer, I would rather make one thing suffer than 10 million. Now, with the trolley car problem, if something was going towards 5 people and it was going to make them suffer, and I could pull the lever and it would go make one person suffer, I wouldn't do it because it's naturally happening. But in this case, I have to choose out of 2 instead of letting the natural case happen. So if I'm choosing, I choose 1. So that's kind of the answer there. The reason it's different for the dying is if something doesn't have an interest in existing, there's this idea of like, okay, so it's immoral to make something suffer if it doesn't want to suffer. That is what it is for all the ranges of harm and suffering. There's that. But then anything else being immoral, you would have to figure out why it's immoral. So making something's life end, there's no suffering there. You have to figure out why that matters. And in the human case, it matters because, aside from someone's loved ones, it matters because that person wants to continue. But a rock doesn't care to exist, so it doesn't matter what you do to a rock. It doesn't matter if I don't know how you could end a rock's existence, but if you could, then you could. And so if you take an animal, let's just say a cow, it doesn't care to exist. It exists. It has its natural instincts. It'll try to not be harmed. If something's trying to kill it, it'll try to not be killed. But if it doesn't have any care whatsoever about existing, about being there tomorrow, and let's take away all ideas about it having like a calf that it has to take care of, it's a lone cow on its own out in the world, and it doesn't care. It'll keep existing. But comparing it to a human, imagine a human that could say, yeah, I'm alive. I'll be alive tomorrow. I'm cool with being alive tomorrow. But if I died, I don't care. I have no care in the world in any way if I die. Then I don't think it's necessarily immoral to snap that human or that cow out of existence. Now, I wouldn't do it, but I would do it over anything else. So if I knew a human wanted to live, they were really excited about a movie they were going to see next week, and you had 10 billion animals that didn't care about existing in any way, and them not existing wasn't going to harm the ecosystem, then I think, of course, I would snap them out of existence. I wouldn't harm them. I wouldn't choose to harm 10 million animals over harming a human. We'd have to look at the levels of harm. But of existence, I think that's a very important distinction. And so anyways, there's my answer to that. I hope that clarified things. But if not, don't feel bad coming at me with more questions. So, it's tough to say your name. It's not tough to say your name, but referring to somebody as is a little tricky. But anyways, to you, please let me know if I didn't fully answer that. And I'm going to check to see if there are any questions after I gave that that answer, and then I'll go and check the other questions. There are a few other cool questions in there. Okay, so Garland said, can you read my latest reply to you under the video, Vegan Gains, Apple or Steak? Yeah, I can. Vegan Gains, Apple or Steak. Okay. Let me check. Interesting. I don't see Vegan Gains, Apple or Steak. I don't see you on here at all, but sometimes YouTube makes things go away. So one thing that's interesting with comments, if your comment disappears, if you go to sort by, normally it's set to top comments. If you change it to newest first, then it'll list all the ones that YouTube made disappear. Like this, I just did that, and the top one said, vegans are fucking nuts. So YouTube removed that one. Oh my gosh, there's a lot that YouTube removed. Oh man, Garland, I don't see one by you in here. Unless you commented on somebody else's. I'll look at a couple to see if I can find you in the comments of somebody else's. So far, I don't see you in there. Sorry, dude. Nope. Yeah, you're not in here. Randall's in here. Let's see. Are you under this one? Okay, I've basically looked through them all, so I might as well finish. I'm gonna look through this last one. Oh, there you are. Okay, you were under. You were under the guy that I talked to today, actually. Garland says the Super Bowl is the final championship football game every year at the NFL. Two teams with the best record will compete at the Super Bowl. Holy smokes, this is a very long comment. But this comment is in reply to me asking Garland if he had studies that talks about crop deaths, so we could talk about that further. And then he said, as it stands, the animals that are killed via lethal crop protection measures aren't all counted and cataloged like we do with animal agriculture. And then I said, so how can we calculate it? And how do we know we can trust the numbers? And then Garland said, how can you tell who won the Super Bowl? If the final score for one of the two teams. And so I'm guessing that's answered within that long reply. I am not going to read that entire long reply. I'm sorry about that. But if you have a shorter reply that you want to put in the comments here, I'll totally answer that. But yeah, I mean, we can assume something's happening, but to know what's happening, we either have to see it with our eyes, we have to see studies, we have to have it filmed. have it documented in a way we can trust. So it's complicated. I'm not saying that something doesn't happen because we don't have studies of it, but I can't just go off of this idea that somebody thinks something happened. So if I misunderstood, let me know. Okay, Jeremy Smith, who I'm talking to later today, or is that tomorrow, Jeremy? That might be later today. Said sentience should be treated black and white in this case. Jeremy, are you referring to the case of if I would save a person over a billion animals? Because no, sentience does not necessarily affect if you want to continue living, if you want to exist. Sentience just means that we can perceive and we have the ability to feel. So we can suffer, we can feel pain, we can feel pleasure. I don't think the pleasure element matters as far as any vegan stuff, but the pain part, we don't want pain, we don't want suffering. That makes sense. We should not make people suffer or feel pain. And perceiving things is an element of sentience. You can think and perceive and acknowledge what's happening in the world. I mean, not to the extent. Anyways, so I just don't think. I don't have any reason to think anything sentient should be made to not exist. But I think when you're deciding what should continue to exist, if you had to pick, I don't think sentience affects what should exist. Wanting to exist is. Don't pull the lever. Let the maximum number of humans be killed. It's same with animals, though. But not maximum. It would just be whatever is naturally occurring. Rock lives matter. Okay. It wouldn't be immoral to snap humans out of existence either. Too much value is put on a temporary want. No, I mean, you make a good point. So I want to continue, but if I was snapped out of existence, I couldn't care about that. The bad act that happened is a second act, like 1 second, not second as in not first. And so it's complicated. I probably put too much value on a want, but I can't not. I mean, it's kind of why I would like kill animals to survive. It's my instinct. My instinct tells me I want to continue. I want to go on living. And so that's why I'm glad that I'm in a society that makes it illegal to kill me, so I can survive. So that want means something to me in the moment. But yeah, if I was snapped out of existence, that'd be a bummer. My kids would be without a dad, and I wouldn't get to like see the movies I want to see or go to concerts I want to go to. I wouldn't be able to like help animals the way I want to help animals. But it is hard to look at making something not exist as a moral issue. At least it's not as easy to look at as the suffering element. So I'm with you. Daniel said, it's obvious animals seek a life. By the way they fear to lose its life, animals care. They actually seek humans that are peaceful. Animals are not separate from humans. Well, it depends on what you mean by separate. I'd say animals are definitely separate from humans. Animals are all separate from each other. Every individual is separate from, like, so we have the traits that we have that are similar. So me and another human will have similarities, but we are separate from each other. So anyways, I don't want to get into the semantics of separate, but it's obvious that animals seek life. Now, it's obvious that evolution has made it so humans and non-human animals all have a natural instinct to not want to die. Aside from, I don't know if there's suicidal animals out there, but it seems to be an anomaly, and it might be based on certain circumstances that somebody does not want to survive. But for the most part, the animals that continue are the ones that seek continuing, at least in that sense. They have evolved to protect themselves from harm, including death. But that doesn't mean they have a want to exist. It means they exist and they keep continuing. So I think it's complicated. But again, I don't think there's any way we could ever know to a level where I would say it's not immoral to end something's life that is sentient. I just think I do know enough about humans and not enough about animals that I'd choose a human over an animal. The eighth comment under, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, I did find that one. We should err on the side of compassion. Yes, yes, as in different levels are irrelevant. I can't remember what that's to, but I agree that we should err on the side of compassion. Yeah, definitely. Okay, let me check real quick to see if I think there are a few more questions under the community post. There are some really good ones. Let me see if I can find them real quick. Okay, so VL now says thoughts on Cube of Truth showing graphic animal footage in public places where it can be traumatizing, where it can traumatize passing kids. That's a very interesting one, and it's tough. So public areas, there are things that are illegal, like public nudity, but in public areas, it's public. Things are fine. You can go up to strangers and take pictures of them. Taking a picture is not illegal. Same with video. Speech is not illegal. You can be in public areas. You can be saying inappropriate things, and if kids are walking by, they could hear it. I think there is a level of respect that one should show in general when it comes to kids, but that's just a personal opinion. Kids of any age that we're talking about that would be traumatized will likely be with parents, or should be anyways. And so the parents could like see what's happening and not get the kids close enough. I think you would have to be a certain closeness to be really see what's happening on the laptop. So I think parents should probably stop kids from getting too close to the laptop. All that being said, so my daughter is almost 7. She's been vegan since birth, but she doesn't know. She doesn't even know that people eat animals. She doesn't really understand that because we don't really talk about that. And so I wouldn't want her to see something sad like that, and she's vegan. But I would say that I think maybe, depending on the age of the kid, that if parents are having their kids eat animals, in the same sense that if somebody's going to eat an animal, I think they should be willing to kill their own animals to eat them. I think a kid should be able to see what's happening to get the food that they're eating. I don't want to force this on anybody, but that's just a personal opinion. So anyways, I'm not too worried about it. I don't think 5-year-olds should be out on their own. And if you have a 5-year-old with you, don't let them get too close to the Cube of Truth videos. But this is what I would say. If I was holding a laptop that had that kind of footage and I saw a kid wandering close to it, I would probably turn the laptop or close it or whatever out of respect. So, okay. And then VL now went on to say, just know you will be kicking the hornet's nest if you address this question. Flying monkeys will be sent out. And not much will be achieved anyways. So the question is it worth it? Yeah, I think all questions are worth it. I don't want to provoke or offend anybody, but I don't want to only answer questions or talk in certain ways to gain popularity or to not lose vegan subscribers or anything like that. Hopefully my fellow vegans can accept that I might have an opinion they disagree with. One comment I received suggesting it was okay to traumatize them, as the trauma is lesser of two evils. Another suggested these kids should see the reality. Yeah, and that's I kind of agree with both of those. VL now says I'm not a philosophy. I'm not philosoph. Anyways, I'm not educated in philosophy nor study ethics. So I just categorize these justifications under the layman's term of the end justifies the means. Yeah, cool. Okay, and then a vegan responded to them saying they've been doing it for 8 years and no complaints from parents. The TV showing standards of legal practice, nothing illegal. Yeah, I don't know if there's no complaints from parents, but yeah. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I'm not too concerned. Let me check to see if anybody responded to any of that, and then I think I have one more question in here. Garland said, "You're not willing to believe that crop death deaths numbers outnumber animal agriculture. Let's see. Deaths without meticulous records, but you're willing to believe that cows are more sentient than voles with no evidence. No, that's not correct. And I find that this happens here and there, that you make claims about me that are not correct. I did not say that about the voles or rodents compared to cows. I don't know how to consider one thing more or less sentient than another. I will say that most of the deaths in crop deaths are insects. I personally don't care about insects at this point. If anybody wants to come on and talk with me about insects, I'd be glad to do so. And maybe I'll have my mind changed. I'll read enough studies. But right now, I don't care about insects. I do care. I do care if we use pesticides that, because of that and the insects, it kills birds. If there was enough suffering of birds from the insects that the pesticides get into, and then there's enough deaths from rodents due to rodenticides and the hunting of animals that are in the area of crops. If you add it all together and it causes more harm than the killing of animals to eat them, then yes, I would say it is more moral to eat the animals that you kill to eat, like cows and chickens, if that were the case. But I still would care more about health. So I am thoroughly convinced that it's healthier to eat like at least 90 to 95% to eat 90 to 95% plants. It seems like there are many studies that say maybe fish are healthy to eat and various different things. Not enough that would make me eat them. But yeah, so anyways, I would not sacrifice my own health for the better outcome of suffering. If it caused less suffering to eat steaks than apples, then I would say if you are a person that cares about morals and you don't care about health, if you're the type of vegan that eats like Impossible Burgers and vegan ice cream and donuts, which is fine, no judgment, then yes, if it caused less suffering to eat steaks than apples, then the vegan thing that you should do is switch over from Impossible Burgers to steak. I do not. I want to be as healthy as possible. I'm not as healthy as I should be, but I want to be. So I would choose eating the apple over the steak because it's healthier, even if it causes more suffering to birds and rodents and so on. Once my health is looked after, anything past that, my focus would be on not harming animals. So anyways, I do not feel that way, Garland. But also, let's do that talk. Let's talk again soon. But yes, I do need to see information. I can't just blindly accept something. I mean, I don't know why you blindly accept it. So anyways, what about setting up a glass house in a public place in the slaughter? Oh, it went away. In their slaughter animals, not really, but as a show, a school trip slaughterhouse. Yeah, like I mean, obviously parents would have to be willing to let this happen, but I think if kids are going to eat meat, it's probably best if they know where it comes from and how it comes from. Okay, AV says, reasonable vegan. JD Garland stated in that comment, let me know when you want to sit down with me and let me show you the big picture. Will this happen? Yes, that sounds good to me. Garland, I'll email you and we will talk about it. Okay, I remember when you had 8 subs on this channel, your content quality got way better since. Cool, thank you. Yes, I remember you were one of the first subs, and it's been great talking with you. Let's see. AV Garland also said, I can tell you that the numbers of animal deaths that are happening in order to produce the items on the vegan menu are at least in the quadrillions annually. So AV, you can let me know if you disagree, and same with Garland. I think that's mostly referring to insects, which again, I don't have too much of a care for. I don't want to harm insects. I personally don't even kill ants when they're in my house. I have no interest in harming insects. But when I look at all the issues in the world, that it's just the least of my worries. People are correct to state that reasonable vegan is not a vegan. What? People are correct to state that. Lewis, what are you talking about? Get out of here. Garland said insects are a major food source. Oh, but Lewis, let me know. I'm very curious what you're referring to. Garland says insects are a major food source for many animals, and those animals slowly die from starvation due to crop pesticides. Interesting. Yes, so I agree. If we can find out through scientific study that the pesticides, well, first of all, I want to state I don't think pesticides are good. Now, if due to the amount of humans we have to create pesticides to have more food, and therefore it's better for humans to eat foods with pesticides on it than to not eat at all. That is what it is. Maybe I am just in a better place than a lot of people are as far as being able to eat organic foods. I don't want to consume pesticides, and I will stay as far away from them as I can. But yes, what I will say is when we are evaluating where there's more harm and suffering, while I am not caring about insects, if the insects eat the pesticides that we put out, and then the number of animals that eat the insects die from the crop deaths, then show me those numbers. Show me per calorie how many animals that aren't insects that are suffering and also dying. I want to know. I want to know what likely there's more suffering versus dying. And same thing with farms. You got a free range farm where let's assume there's a possibility of no suffering at all, and then you have a death at the end versus the suffering to the death. I'd prefer just the death than the suffering and death. So if all the animals that are dying from the crop deaths are suffering because deer are eating grass that has pesticides on it, or birds are eating insects that consume the pesticides, and they're suffering and then dying, I would factor that in. But send me the studies. Show me the numbers. You got to show me something. And if there aren't studies, then I will work with you, Garland. I will work with you to try to convince people to do studies. Hopefully people will donate money. I would think that vegans would want to know these answers, so we could, all vegans should donate money to do studies to find out how many animals are suffering from pesticides. Because really, I mean, how could you not? If you are vegan and you care, even if you view it as an incidental death or whatever, you still need to look at what your intentions are leading to as far as suffering goes. So yeah, I'm with you. I just need to see the numbers. Insects are cool. It's vegan to respect insects. I think that's a question. I don't care as much compared to a lot of things. No reasonable definition of veganism includes animals who happen to be classified as insects. No reasonable definition should be excludes. I see. The inclusivity trait is sentient, and there's plenty of evidence that suggests insects are sentient. No, I don't disagree. There's plenty of evidence that shows that some insects are sentient, maybe even most. Just comparatively, I don't care. I'm sorry, I just don't. I'm not excluding them from veganism. I'm not saying that it's part of the vegan diet to consume sentient insects for people that eat insects. I'm not convinced that I would rather kill a cow than a million insects. I think I'd rather kill a million insects. And if you don't agree, then how on earth can you be in favor of pesticides killing insects? That's wild. Let's see. Lewis said, I'm referring to your okay, the insect thing. Yeah, I finally got around to that. Garland would be a great food source. No, that's not cool. That's not cool. Um, I mean, sure, he'd be a great food source in the sense that anybody could be a great food source if you are starving and need food. I don't think human meat is like supposed to be good for you or anything like that. Is honey vegan? Garland says. So here's the thing. I want to learn more about honey because I've heard some interesting arguments. But the reason that honey, as far as my understanding, the reason that honey is not vegan is because bees make the honey for themselves. They're essentially going to consume all the honey they make. If they make the honey, we remove the honey and then we give them artificial sweetener things that they can consume. It cuts their lives in half. So that's a big issue there, that we're cutting their lives in half. Then now the other issue, I see. I just see the trap that you tried to have me walk into, which would be the fact that bees are insects and the pesticide thing. So yes, let's see. Okay, let me finish what I was saying, and then I'll respond to the trap that I just caught. Oh man, how did I not catch that in advance? Okay, so there's that aspect. There's the cutting the lives in half of the bees, and then there is the fact that the queen bees have their wings ripped off, so they don't fly away because it's important that they're there for the scent of the honeybees, I believe, to do their job. Because they work kind of like robots, so they don't recognize the wings are ripped off the bee. I'm not sure what level of suffering goes into that. Now, I personally, honey is kind of one of the least of my worries of the things that are not vegan. I don't consume honey for this reason I just mentioned. Now, I don't consume pretty much any produce that isn't organic, at least when I can. Which would have a similar effect, but I don't do it for that reason. I do it for the health reason. So as far as the difference between going out of your way to not purchase something that causes harm, yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. It's a good trap. You got me in a good trap. This is a good learning experience for vegans. So if you fellow vegans think that this isn't a good trap, please explain to me where it's not. But no, this is a good point. Garland makes a really good point here that if you're not going to care about the insects that we're spraying pesticides on our food for, then why do we care about the bees, honey? Now we could add in the element of the importance of bees compared to other things. I believe ants and bees are thought of as two things that if they were gone, it'd be really hard to have much life on Earth, or at least not humans, and a lot of life on Earth would go away. So there is that aspect. But if we're just talking about the suffering and death of sentient insects, I don't know which insects are thought of as sentient. I don't know which ones die off from the pesticide element. I'm actually very curious about that because a lot of plants, most plants, I believe, need to be pollinated by bees. So do bees die from pesticides on, I don't know if anybody knows this, Garland, let me know if you know, but do bees pollinate plants that are sprayed with pesticides, and those bees die, and then other insects also that are trying to eat the crops, those die as well? That's kind of interesting. I don't know. But there might be even more reason than I ever thought of why we shouldn't have pesticides. But again, I care more about my health than anything else. So I don't want pesticides inside of me. Like seriously, straight up, nobody consume a strawberry that is not organic. There's a list called the Dirty Dozen, and it's basically when they test produce to see which ones that aren't organic have the most pesticides in them that humans consume and can lead to various different things like cancers and whatnot. Strawberries are always like number one on the list, but it's worth looking at that list. Okay, so anyways, yes, no, very interesting. Is it more or less vegan? Fellow vegans, please answer this. To consume non-organic foods that cause insect deaths than to consume honey. That's good. Garland got me in a good trap. I like it. But we shouldn't view it as traps. We should always be wanting to know the truth. It really shouldn't matter if we shouldn't think, okay, this is what veganism is, and now I need to prove this right. We should always be looking for the truth. And anyway, so there's that. So I'm with you, Garland. Thank you for that. If Garland Farms wasn't meant to be eaten, then why is he made out of meat? Okay, that's funny. It threw me off because the farms. I didn't realize you were talking about him. But I can accept comedy even if it's negative towards a person. Interesting. Contrarian 420. I am totally vegan except for raw honey. Yeah, let's talk about that more. That's interesting. I think it's complicated. I know somebody very close to me that is vegan, does not consume honey or any of the non-vegan things, but likes the idea of having one of those a thing that you can have basically in your backyard where it helps out bees. They make their honey. They keep most of their honey, but you can like turn a little thing and a little bit of honey comes out. And so basically you can use a little bit of the bee's honey if you want, but you don't have to use it all. And it can be beneficial for bees. I don't know if I'm in favor of this, but anyways. Plants make the chlorophyll for themselves. I don't know what that's about. You're going to have to tell me more about that. If Garland gets killed on the road, would it be vegan to eat him? Yes, it would be. You can eat any person. First of all, veganism is about animals. So if you're just talking about morals, it's fine to eat a person if they died. Now, a society has their laws, and I get why there'd be laws against it. But just morally alone, it's fine. I mean, morally alone, I don't even care about necrophilia. I don't. If something's not sentient, it doesn't matter. You can't. I don't see how there can be a connection to morality without sentience. Seems like vegans only care about the bees as insects because they don't care about living beings. They only want to detect what people eat. Dictate. They only want something threw me off. They only want to dictate what people eat. They don't care about all other insects dying. I don't care about insects dying as much as other things, but a lot of people do. Okay, as FYI, raw honey is a magical remedy for skin burns. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's important to know what's good for humans because we have to care about our safety first. If you live in a house, then you're willing to have trees cut down to make a house, even if animals would have lived in the tree. We have to take care of ourselves. Garland said some beekeepers clip away parts of their queen's wings, but they do not need to rip them off. This would be a danger to the queen. Yeah, still, but you're clipping it away. Yeah, I don't think that's good. If there's ways to get honey that didn't involve clipping wings, I'm on that side. AV says, thanks. I look forward to interacting with JD and you on the live stream on this often overlooked topic. Yeah, no, I look forward to it too. And Garland, hopefully you're okay with doing one where it's me and my buddy Michael talk together. And you can bring another person on too. I'm not having another person to have it be like a tag team thing. It's just my buddy Michael is more of a studies, reading the research type person, where I'm more of, not more so than him, but compared to study stuff, I'm more into the ethical philosophy side of it. And so I think it'd be more beneficial to get more information going across if we had both of us. But I'm up for a talk not having him, but I'm starting a separate channel that will be kind of linked to this, but it'll be on moral philosophy in general. And I'd like to talk with you on that one. Garland says, it seems that you judge the level of sentience of an animal based on whether or not it's an animal usually eaten by humans or whether it's an animal killed by crops. No. I mean, there's plenty of animals not eaten by humans. Pandas, koalas. You can list any random mountain lions. There's plenty of animals not eaten by humans that I care about just the same as cows and pigs and chickens. It's just... I insects are tricky. I would never like one thing you can. What we do is we kind of compare things to ourselves. So if something has eyes and ears and it can bleed and it can scream out if it's being killed, then we connect in that sense. And so there's that. But I'll leave it up to the science. Science will show that there's sentience. What does that level of sentience mean? If an ant's like got a leg ripped off, but it keeps walking like normal because it's like its instincts and its design is like a robotic type situation. I do care if it can suffer, but is there any reason to think that it is going to do anything other than its robotic needs? So anyways, it's just complicated. But I'm these are all things we need to learn, and I don't have an exact answer. Um, David, I'm glad you're in here. There's a question I wanted to ask you. Oh, what was it? I asked you earlier, but you weren't here earlier, probably. Garland Farms, there are no levels of sentience. What are you talking about? Um, Garland's talking. He's talking about how I was comparing. I was saying I wasn't as worried about insects as I am about, say, mammals. As vegans, we need to care about insects. Shown Garland Farms. There are people finding alternatives to animal farms. If you want peace, go for it. But no, you'd have to answer the question of if you're more in favor of vegetation that's sprayed with pesticides than you are with organic foods, because organic foods uses manure usually, and the pesticides kills off a wild amount of insects. You're going to eat that food, but you're not going to eat the honey. He makes a good point. It's very, very worth thinking about. Okay. Oh, David, I wish I could think of what that question was I had for you. I can't think of it. If I ever do, I'll go through and check, and I'll send you an email or something. Okay. AV says to Lewis, do you really believe that Carson is not vegan? I'd be curious to hear that. Okay. I have a talk with RC8802, and it was going to be separate from this, but might as well just add it onto this. So I'm going to copy the link. Copy. There we go. And I'm going to send it over right now. There we go. Send. Okay. RC, I just sent you the link. So I had a talk with Akash or Akash. I might be pronouncing that wrong. And for an hour, and then I did Q&A for another hour. And now I'm going to talk with RC here in a second. And until RC gets here, I'm going to answer a couple more questions. Thoughts on the frog on the profile? Is she cute? That's a funny looking frog. Oh yeah, Smexy Magician is in here. Oh man, dude, I'm looking forward to talking with you. I really enjoyed all the questions you sent to me, and most importantly, I just got an email from RC. Yeah, just click on the StreamYard link, and then it'll ask you a couple questions, but it should have you set up here in a second. But what I really want to break down, Smexy Magician, I wish I knew your real name, so I can stop calling you. I'll just call you Smexy. But anyways, something's saying okay. Can you still not hear me? Somebody's saying they can't hear me. But Smexy, you were saying that you don't agree with me on that video I did about Joey and that lady, and I was saying this is why people hate vegans. I want to go through that video and break it down with you. So I want to just put that video on, and me and you can pause it at any point and talk about it. Lewis says, AV, it seems likely, but his views are a bit convoluted, so maybe it's his way of expressing his views. That's the thing. That's why I think we need to be careful on what details we consider vegan or not vegan. Like David in here says, if you eat roadkill, you're not vegan. Most vegans, I believe, think it's fine. So if me talking about insects makes you say I'm not vegan, I think, anyways, it's just worth thinking about. Okay, so we're gonna add RC in here. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. You hear me all right?
I can, I can. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I think I found you because you had a video you did reacting to vegan gains. Is that right?
No, it's trolling vegan gains.
Trolling vegan gains. Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. So yeah, so I don't know exactly what this conversation will be, but it'll be interesting.
hmm
What are your thoughts on veganism?
Well, I am vegan. A lot of people don't think I am vegan because I was trolling vegan gains.
Uh huh.
Um, but yeah, I was just doing that because I thought it was funny.
Oh, cool. Okay. Are you trolling me now, and you're not really vegan?
No, I'm not trolling.
Okay.
I
uh,
basically I was a big fan of vegan gains, and I
mhm.
was going on his channel. I was a regular. I'd always be in his chat, typing away. And then one day I was out. I actually met some people on Vegan Gains' stream in person. We got some vegan sushi, and I went on the stream just to say like, just to flex about how good the vegan sushi was.
Mhm.
And then I saw my comments weren't going through, and I realized I was banned. So I was like, "What the
Oh.
hell?" So I eventually I figured out someone made like a alt with my name and like said something about Vegan Gains' wife, so he banned me. And then I tried to explain under alt that it wasn't me, and he didn't
Oh.
believe me. So then I was like, might as well just troll. So then I still like Vegan Gains. I think he's great. I
Mhm.
laugh at his stuff, but yeah, I just think it's fun to troll him because he gets angry.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's pretty entertaining to watch him get angry. Well,
Mhm.
I'm always curious to talk to fellow vegans and figure out what their extremes are or not. So I know Vegan Gains agrees with that vegan teacher that Alex O'Connor should be dead for not being vegan anymore. How do you feel about that?
Mhm. Um, yeah, I kind of do agree with him.
Really? Okay. So so what do you? Is it because he was vegan and then not vegan, or would you say in
Well, I
general if?
mean, so for one thing, I've been rewatching that video of Vegan Gains reacting to that because it's so funny when he's like, yeah, I mean, I have a morbid sense of humor. I think it's funny when he's like wishing death on him and stuff. But
Mm,
honestly, like the thing is, like Vegan Gains even said in that video that like he's smart enough to know what he's doing. Like he knows that his excuses are full of shit and that he just wants to be lazy and not be vegan. Like
mm.
that's what I think. I think that he doesn't. He might have irritable bowel syndrome, but he knows that there's a solution to it. And I think the the big thing is he knows how to be vegan, but he doesn't want to put in the effort in doing so. So he's trying to make excuses. And based on like all the videos he made in the past, about like what was the quote? Like um enormous harm requires enormous justification, something like that.
Yeah.
He completely flip-flopped just to be lazy. And
Gotcha.
he's just a player. He's trying to he made the entire community post was just him trying to justify um not being vegan when
I
he
don't.
can't even justify it based on his past views.
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to justify it because his follow up video is pointing out that he thinks anybody can be vegan and they should do it if they want to do it.
Well, the
But
thing is, he said he doesn't believe in individual boycott anymore. So
yeah,
that
well,
was
and
kind
that
of
was complicated. I do want to
his
know what he meant by
leeway.
that. Yeah, yeah, no, that was complicated.
Mhm.
But okay, so would you say is it something unique about Alex, or would you say right now if you were outside and you saw somebody eating outside of McDonald's and they were eating a burger, so they were eating,
Mhm.
they were putting cow death in demand, would you snap your fingers and have them die if you could get away with it, or is it specifically an Alex thing?
No, it's not specifically Alex. Yeah, I mean, well, you'd have to explain like, is this person ordering a burger? Because obviously, I wasn't vegan my whole life. I've only been vegan a few years. Um, like, how long does this person know about veganism? Is this person have the potential to be vegan? Does this person basically is this am I gonna be able to give this person a choice like, hey, I'm gonna snap my fingers and murder you, or you could be vegan right now? you know.
Well, let's say they didn't know the option that you were going to snap the fingers, but let's say that you could tell every human on Earth, you could point out to them, this is what happens to animals. You show them slaughterhouse footage. They're aware of it. They can make the choices themselves. You can send them links to the studies. And then once they're all aware of it and then they choose not to, let's say you gave them a week. They have a week and then they still just eat animals. Would you kill them at that point, or would there have to be more details?
I always feel like questions like that, like I never know what I would actually do, but just like off like the top of my head, like I feel like it's very tempting to just kill them because honestly, like I'm just tired of like everyone making excuses for not being vegan. Like I have a friend, I could think of someone who he's still technically my friend, like I hang out with him, but like part of me, I always think like, do I even want to be this guy's friend anymore? Because basically he said he was vegan for 5 years. And the second I debate him, okay, well, why'd you stop? I just saw you eat multiple animal products today. He doesn't even try to be vegan anymore. He just eats turkey sandwiches and he eats just all this stuff. And I tried talking to him about it, and then he's talking about like a lot of stuff that Alex would say. Oh, my mental health, worrying about everything having a specific ingredient, you know, and then like this and that. And then he went to plants feeling pain. He went through all these excuses, and he knows that he's full of shit. He knows
Yeah.
he's full of shit. That's the thing that pisses me off. And he's still saying it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would snap my fingers and kill him off because like he's like that's just pathetic.
Yeah. Well, so I think, and this isn't an original idea or anything, but I
Mhm.
think most people, they don't want to be thought of as a bad person. So if they eat meat, they're going to try
Mhm.
to justify it. To come up with an idea of
Well,
plants
yeah.
feel pain, they're just trying to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, but like he went through like all stages of level 0 Carnus. Like he's talking about how he's older than me and that I'm stupid, and he's like, "Oh, I'm 10 years older than you. I've been on this planet way longer." Like he's trying to use that, and then he's saying plants feel pain, and then he's saying this and that, and it's just absolute ridiculousness. And he obviously knows deep down that he's full of shit, but he's just too lazy to be vegan.
Gotcha.
Like,
Well, okay. Let me ask you a question then, because I'm curious. So I'm guessing, like myself, you're aware that we can be healthy, eating whole foods, like vegan diet. But
yes.
what if we couldn't? In a hypothetical world where everything is just like it is now, but humans had to only consume meat, they were carnivores, just like lions. Would you say that because we're intelligent enough to know the suffering we're causing, that we should let our species die off, or should we eat just what we need to survive, but not harm anything past that?
So in a situation like that, the best case scenario in my mind would just I wish like the world just didn't exist anymore. But like for me personally, if that was the only way I could survive, then I probably wouldn't be vegan in virtue of me valuing my life. Like I could understand obviously obligate carnivores, like they're not going to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I would expect them to. But the thing is about carnivores and stuff, I have to think about the victims involved. Like I don't blame the carnivores, but then again, I have to outweigh who's being killed. Like I'm not just gonna say, oh, okay, so these ten beings deserve to die. These like multiple beings deserve to die just to sustain this one carnivore. I mean,
Okay.
I like what Vegan Gains talks about. He says like, oh, well, what if there was a zombie that had to eat humans to survive? Is it immoral to kill that zombie? Like, of course, everyone would kill that zombie. They wouldn't let
Mm-hmm.
a zombie just go around eating people because they feel bad for them.
Yeah, but what if you were the zombie?
If I was the zombie, yeah, I mean, you know, I
You'd
feel
want to
like
survive.
ethically, I should kill myself. I don't know if I
Mm.
would. Well, I mean, I would if it were for people I cared about. If I were
Yeah.
eating like that guy who says he was vegan for 5 years and talks about plants feeling pain, then yeah, I'd sacrifice him for myself if I was just eating carnies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would let myself live, but if I was
Yeah.
eating good ethical vegans, then yeah, I would kill myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. I like to put myself in the shoes of each individual. So I used to think that if I had a gun and I was out in nature and I saw a lion was going to eat a zebra, I would kill the
Hmm.
lion because one of them could die and the zebra didn't do anything wrong. And
Yeah.
but then the more I think about it, once I started this channel and I talk to people about stuff, I recognize that we have this instinct to care about our own lives, and so I would kill animals on an island to survive if I needed to. I would, but same thing with the carnivore question. If I was a carnivore, I wouldn't just like with my knowledge of how much I want to live and survive. I don't think I would just say, okay, I need to kill 100 animals a year to survive. I'll go ahead and just shoot myself to not exist anymore because I care about these animals. I can't get myself to be fine with not existing, to go, okay, I'm not going to exist, and that makes me happy that these animals won't be harmed. I think I have to
Hmm.
put myself first. And so therefore, if I was a lion, I wouldn't want somebody to kill me just because I was acting on my instinct of surviving. So I think that's why I don't feel that way anymore. Especially if it's for survival. So you bring up the zombie thing. So if I was in nature and I saw a lion killing a zebra, I'd probably just let it happen. But if I saw a lion kill and eat a zebra and then it was full and just for fun it killed a whole bunch of zebras that it wasn't eating, I think I would kill it. But just because it's harming things for fun, and I think I'd feel the same thing with people, which is why if there was somebody born that was like a serial killer and they were just out in nature killing other humans out in nature, I would kill them because they're killing them for fun. But if they were a carnivore human and they were killing humans to eat them, I'd have to put myself in both people's shoes. If I was the person about to be eaten, I wouldn't want to be eaten. But if I was the person about to eat another person, I wouldn't want to be killed and I would want to eat the other person. So in that case, I think I just have to step back and not intervene if I would want what both of them are wanting.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes me think of like at my university recently, I heard we'd have like a lot of mountain lions on our campus. I actually saw one, but I recently found out more details about how this mountain lion killed a coyote. I already knew
Mm-hmm.
the coyote was killed by a mountain lion, but apparently one of the people in my village said that they heard this dog squealing for an hour and they thought it was just someone's dog that was being annoying. They looked out the window and found out it was a coyote being tortured by a mountain lion for an hour before being killed. So the mountain lion was torturing that coyote for a full hour, just squealing and barking. Um,
Mm.
and when I heard that, like my blood boiled. Like I wish I'd been there to kill that mountain lion.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of animals are very sadistic, like orca whales, or
Mm.
technically orca whales are dolphins. They're not even whales because
Oh, okay.
dolphins are whales with teeth, essentially.
Hmm.
But yeah, orcas are. I have a friend who's I'm really into animals, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
friend who's actually a level zero carnist who's also into animals. But we both
Gotcha.
think that orcas and humans are some of the worst animals in the world.
As far as the capability of being sadistic.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I,
because
I agree
orcas
with.
they live for things.
You cut out for a second. What did you say about orcas?
Oh, I said orcas torture things for fun on a daily
Gotcha.
basis.
Somebody in the comments said wild orcas have never killed a human, so that's interesting. But yeah, if they torture other animals, that's
That
still
is true.
bad.
Well, I'm talking about like they torture seals and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's bad. I think I feel pretty confident that even if they don't have the rationality to recognize they're doing something wrong, I would still want to kill something that's torturing something else, mountain lion, orca.
Mhm.
And that's because I think there's a bigger moral issue with suffering than I think about not existing. I couldn't make myself not exist because I don't want to cause suffering. But if I could snap something out of existence, I don't think there's really a moral issue necessarily happening, but I also don't think we should snap things out of existence that want to live. I'm guessing you have ideas for a lot of things you want to do with the rest of your life. So I don't think it would be good for you to be wiped out of existence. But if you were torturing kids or adults or animals, then I would think it would be better, in my opinion, to remove you. If you were causing wild amounts of suffering. It would depend on the level, though, because I would not kill somebody because they ate meat. But
I was just thinking that,
yeah, it might be the disconnect. Now, I don't think it's reasonable to pay people to do your torturing for you, but I do think there's a difference between somebody. Like if somebody went and bought some little piglets and took them home and cut their teeth out and cut their tails off just because they liked hearing it squeal, I would want that person to not exist. But somebody that goes and buys bacon and they don't have enough time in their life to think about or care about the fact that factory farms cut teeth out of pigs and tails off. I don't think I would take their lives, but it's complicated.
Well, what about people who know that that's what happens in animal agriculture?
Yeah, I would want
like Alex O'Connor.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think Alex eats pigs. He eats fish, and
Well, he said he wasn't very specific, but he said he's been eating seafood along with other animal products. So
yeah, due to him not being specific, I wouldn't want to judge too much because here's the thing I just said to somebody on a Q&A thing I was doing, where my first instinct to care about animals is when I recognize how similar they are to me. So if an animal has eyes and a nose and ears and they have blood in them, and if they get stabbed, they'll whimper and cry. They seem to be suffering in a way that I can detect. Where an insect, like an ant getting halfway squished but still alive, I can't hear any screams, so I would rely on science for that. Same thing with fish. It seems like the science is in, and it's pretty well known that fish can feel pain. But witnessing a fish wiggling on a hook, I don't know if it's just reacting to stimuli, if that fish is just like has the robotic sense of I'm out of water, so I'm moving, and it looks bad, but I don't hear a scream. So I can't remember exactly why I'm pointing this out, but I think there are different levels to why I might care about one being over another. I would want to know how much suffering there is. And so I guess I just, people, I know people hate the word journey, but somebody, on their journey, figuring out their life, figuring out what they're doing, Alex is a very ethical person. He clearly cares about animals, and he has decided for himself right now he might consume certain things. And I don't think that's good, but I also know other people that care about animals, and they're like 95% vegan, and they're trying their best, and they're figuring out what they think about these moral situations. And it's just
how would he be trying his best, though? I mean,
I don't know exactly. I don't know the details. Like I was telling somebody, if I were Alex, I would actually just stop doing the speaking tours. But if that's a huge part of your life, if you are more passionate about speaking tours than anything else, then if you have to consume different foods to do those speaking tours, like I really don't know. I like to take everybody at face value. If they're claiming a thing, I like to believe them, and it would really come down to the details of what he's doing. But let me ask you a question to see, because in these comments, a guy by the name of Garland Farms brought something up, and I accidentally got
tricked. I know who he is.
Okay, I got tricked into a very good point, but he was talking about pesticides and how them being sprayed onto crops will kill billions and billions of insects. And I made a comment about how even though don't want to kill insects. If an insect is sentient, I don't want to kill it. I don't care about it as much as I care about cows and pigs and bears or any kind of sentient being that I view as like a higher level sentient being. And then he asked if honey was vegan, and I walked right into that trap. But if eating honey causes bees to like have half the lifespan they have, then eating crops that aren't organic, that are sprayed with pesticides, is killing insects way more than honey is. So how would you justify eating these crops versus eating the honey?
So you're saying the crops call. Sorry. So you're saying that by eating honey, you're saving insects, or you're saying that the crops cause?
So if you go to the store right now and you were to buy apples or corn or carrots or whatever you're going to buy, if they're not organic, then likely the crops were sprayed with pesticides, and so millions of insects came to try to eat the plants, and the pesticides killed off the insects. And so purchasing that food and putting that in demand is kind of like purchasing meat and putting meat in demand. You're putting in demand this killing of insects, which is fine. I don't really care about insects that much. But if doing that is killing insects, then how is that any different than buying honey, which kills the bees?
I think you asked a similar question to Vegan Gains as well, about how he said that you're not intentionally. I skimmed through your channel. I remember you saying, like, is it more moral to buy crops that cause multiple insect deaths versus buying a steak or something?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think it's about rodents, because rodents.
It's rodents versus the steaks, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I hold that same view as Vegan Gains. Like, if you're, those insects are coming to your crops and they're eating it. So they're, it's like a rights violation on their ends. I'm not sure if that's if I'm using the correct terminology, but I think you understand what I'm going with.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, and I think that is a good point. But the thing that I think Vegan Gains kind of gets wrong is that these animals, whether it's insects or rodents, they're not doing anything intentional. That they don't view that as your crops. They're just acting upon on their own nature. And but I don't think that means we shouldn't do a certain thing. Like, I am in favor of people killing off mice and rats that are under their house, because those mice and rats are going to chew up their foundation, and we need that for our livelihood. So the rats are doing something unintentional, and we can kill them to protect our livelihood. I'm all for that. But I just think if we need to protect our crops, then we do, and that's fine. But if there are other methods that cause less suffering, I just think that we can't ignore that. And I don't think that's really the case with the honey situation. But I'd say if if you have the options of organic, so organic food, let's just look at
well, so there's one thing about organic foods. I haven't looked into the studies of it, but like, I have some vegan friends who mentioned to me that organic foods aren't vegan because they require the use of manure as soil. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before. You've heard of that?
No, I have, yeah, and so it's complicated. So, kind of how I mentioned before, I care more about my own health than other things, and then once I'm healthy, then I care about the morals and ethics when it comes to animals. So, even though I'm hoping there are good forms of veganic farming where you can make organic produce without the manure, I would rather consume produce that manure was needed for than to consume pesticides. I know, like, especially berries, when berries have pesticides on them, those pesticides are just horrible for human health. And so, so in my mind, I would choose the organic stuff. But there are people that, because they would rather sacrifice their own health by doing the pesticides than the manure part. And I would say that the amount of insects being killed, not that I care too much about insects, but if other people do care about insects in the same way that they don't want to eat honey, that is it worth killing off so many insects compared to using cow manure? And I don't know exactly what to say about that, because I don't know what we would do if we outlawed cow ownership and eating meat, and therefore we didn't have the manure. It would probably be a whole different question. But I don't know if it matters when we currently have the manure exist.
So you're asking me what I think about
Yeah, like, do you buy organic specifically, or does that matter to you?
I don't necessarily I haven't really like avoided organic entirely, because the thing is, like, when I go to a vegan the thing is, like, the vegan restaurants I go to, they'll say like they have organic stuff. So like the vegan restaurants don't take in organic stuff into account. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's very hard to trace whether things are organic or not. So I haven't put too much effort into analyzing organic, but I do typically choose the non-organic option ever since I heard that. Like if I get like berries or something.
Gotcha. Well, so
But I
now
also
to think
heard
about
from
it.
Vegan Gains. Yeah,
Oh, go
so
for it.
I heard from Vegan Gains that a lot of oh, I don't think I really looked into it too much. I think I just hearsay for me, but that a lot of organic foods end up having pesticides in them because they leach in.
Mm. Yeah, so there are studies, and I've looked at a handful of the studies where they'll test a certain amount of organic apples and then non-organic apples, and you'll see the amount of pesticides in one versus the other. And anything organic will have a very small single-digit numbers, and then it'll be like triple-digit numbers for the non-organic. So yeah, I think a lot of it will come down to studies and finding out throughout the years what causes like certain cancers in humans and that kind of thing. And so in my mind, these pesticides cause so much damage to humans, it's not worth the risk. But I think it's something that vegans don't think about that is worth thinking about, similar to non-vegans, that they don't have to see the animal slaughter. They just buy this package of meat or they buy a burger, and they don't want to think about the rest. I think, not that we have time to think about everything or to research everything, but us vegans should want to find out as much information as possible to make sure that we're making what we view as the most moral choice. And so if buying apples at the store, if you buy organic, that means some manure was used. Although I don't know if they use manure around like tree type crops versus field crops. But let's ignore that part. But buying an organic apple at the store, manure being used in a world where the manure's there because we haven't veganized the world, versus a non-organic apple that's full of pesticides that has killed a bunch of insects, and then the birds that eat the insects die, and then and so on and so forth. Um, I don't know. I think it's just something worth thinking about, and I don't know what numbers we'd have to see to outweigh it. But I definitely care more about my health, so I'm going to eat organic. But even if that wasn't a problem, if the pesticides wasn't bad for your health, then I would want to look at the math of it. And I don't think I have anything necessarily against manure. If cows were out in the wild, like deer run around in the wild,
Oh
and
yeah, obviously, yeah.
if we could go gather their manure and use it, I think we should.
I mean
Um,
that's like I don't see why any vegan would have an issue with that, because that's how the world works. Like
yeah.
every natural thing, every body, everything decomposes and becomes the soil and becomes reused. And yeah,
Yeah. But there are definitely people that feel that way, like not roadkill. I know people that say if you eat roadkill that it's not vegan. Now I don't know who would actually eat roadkill. I think it's more of a
I heard you
hypothetical
talking
just
about
for
this before I
philosophy.
came in. Yeah,
Okay, what are your
I
thoughts on
don't
roadkill?
I don't care if someone eats roadkill. Like, I mean, you probably someone like Sparage would eat roadkill, but you know who Sparage is, right?
What's that?
Do you know who Sparage is?
Uh-uh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've come across him before. He's eats a lot of like disgusting things. Being Gaines often reacts to him.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. He'd probably eat roadkill, but like I don't care if he. The thing is, I just don't want animals to suffer. I don't want their rights being violated. Um, you know,
Yeah.
so like if it's just a dead body, like I wouldn't care if it was a human dead body on the ground and someone ate that. Like whatever.
Yeah, same here. Like, it makes sense to have laws against stuff like that because then you can muddy the waters between what's acceptable or not. But just as far as morals go, I'm definitely on your side. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually did have a conversation about this before. Like someone was saying to eat like a dead body, the reason why it's wrong, a dead human body, is because family members would have an issue with that. And then they were trying to like analyze whether animals feel compassion for their loved ones' dead bodies being eaten. So that was like the argument
Gotcha.
against roadkill. I don't think that most animals care if about the bodies of their loved ones, but like I know like some birds they have like funerals for like their loved ones,
Oh,
and
interesting.
they circle around. I forget what kind of birds. I know crows are the smartest birds, but
Well,
I think ducks do that.
that's interesting that you mentioned that because the guy David in here that says that roadkill's not vegan, he also says any animal use whatsoever. So if like Native Americans would use feathers from that they just find on the ground or from dead birds to like use in their headdresses or whatever, and that he was saying even using a feather from an already deceased bird is not vegan. And I think that fits into that same category of if we care about sentience, then we care about sentience. And once something is dead, it's not sentient anymore.
Yeah. As far as feathers, I just feel like that's a byproduct. Like if you found someone's hair on the ground, I don't
Right.
think anyone's gonna care.
Yep. Yep.
They probably
Definitely.
think you're gross. Like, what the hell are you doing with some dude's hair? But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna be like, "Wow, that's a rights violation. You're picking up people's hair on the ground."
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, any other thoughts you got, or anything you saw from videos that you might have watched that you disagree on or want to talk about?
I think I was thinking of something before, but I kind of forgot. But like, yeah. Uh, So what's your view on colon carnivores? So you think I got like a mixed bag on what your view is on colon carnivores because you said that you wanted it seemed like you're more interested in if you saw it you would have a problem with it.
Yeah. So, any animal making another animal suffer for fun, I think we should kill them. That would be totally fine. So, if we were able to witness that with orcas or mountain lions, I don't know. I might even go as far as saying if we could know that it's in their nature that that likely every orca will make things suffer for fun. I don't think I'm against ending the species completely if it weren't going to harm the ecosystem. Same thing with mountain lions. If there's just this one case, then it doesn't matter. But if it is a species that is sadistic, and it's not going to harm the ecosystem to take out that one, like if you take out all the mountain lions, but you don't take out lions or whatever, then I'd be okay with that. And then individually, if I witnessed something making something suffer just for fun, I would take that out. But other than that, things just acting within their nature to survive, I have not been convinced to go back to thinking that we should wipe them out.
And would you extend that to humans? Surely not all we know since we communicate that not all humans are sadistic by nature, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But if you saw some being sadistic, like just intentionally torturing animals.
Mm.
Like I've seen
Okay.
videos on YouTube of kids. I saw
Yes.
YouTube videos of kids dissecting American bullfrogs alive. You know, he just cut open the
Oh,
stomach and tied it up, and he's just videotaping it. I'm actually curious, what would you
yeah.
do to that kid?
Yeah, I'll answer that in just a sec, but I'll answer the first part
Mhm.
of it first, like what we should do with humans. So I view humans slightly different. So I think when humans left nature to start societies, the reason we do that and the reason we should do something like that is based on mutual benefit. You don't kill me, I don't kill you. You don't hurt me, I don't hurt you. You don't steal from me, I don't steal from you. Um,
Mhm.
Anything where everybody will benefit, I think is a good approach to go. And to feel that our lives are valued, I think our government needs to protect us in that sense, which is why I think it's good to have prisons. So I'm not in favor of the death penalty. I think if humans do something bad enough that other humans are going to be harmed, then we have to remove them from society. I'm accepting of like assisted suicide. So if somebody doesn't want to continue, even if they're in jail and they don't want to continue life in jail, then that's fine. They can have their lives ended. But if somebody does want to continue, but they can't be in society, I think we need to remove them to a prison. And so that's why I view that different, because they can reason and we can talk to them and we can figure these details out. But I don't think we should have a prison for animals that can't reason, that can't like enjoy their time in this cell. So I don't think we would take a sadistic lion that wants to make things suffer and just put it in a prison. I think it's probably easier just to wipe them out. So I
Mhm.
so I would say with somebody that tortures animals, it should be illegal to torture animals. You should get some jail time. I don't know to what extent. A kid eating a frog, we'd have to look at the level
He
of
wasn't
like
eating
what.
it, he was just torturing it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he was just
Um,
cutting it open and yeah.
yeah, I mean that. I don't know the difference between what we do with kids versus adults. Kids are strangely curious. That's why we have this idea that kids like will rip wings off a butterfly, because their brains haven't advanced to the reasoning that we have of that being wrong. And so I don't know exactly how to react to kids. But if a 25-year-old were to just torture an animal and it was caught on film, then I think that that kid should probably be, or that, well, 25-year-old should be, get some jail time, maybe get a fine. I don't know what the number would be. I really don't know what it is. So right now, there's like a famous football player that like kicked his cat really hard, and the cat like flew across the room and hit a wall. And I think
Yeah, I've heard of
he
him,
got a big
Kurtzuga
fine
or
and
whatever.
yeah, and I think he went to jail for a little bit and got a fine. Um, so I don't know. I would probably have the punishment be worse than it probably is, but I don't know if I would have somebody get like life in jail for torturing a frog. So I don't know. What about you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I thought of multiple different things I wanted to talk about just off of that conversation because I
Yeah,
was
for sure.
thinking about is it moral to keep carnivorous animals? That's one thing, and then also yeah. So you said you don't know what you would do to the kid then?
Um, yeah, I just don't know what like. So with a kid, you have like juvie, so kids can go to like a kid version of prison. Um, And so I don't know how much trouble you get in for how much torturing. If somebody tortured 1,000 dogs, they would get more trouble than torturing one dog. And if somebody tortured a dog
Mm.
by sticking
Yeah,
a
but I mean,
cat,
this is the legal system.
yeah.
Like, I'm wondering what you think is ethical. Like, what would you
Ethical.
want for the kid? Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be something to. I think prisons have two purposes: one to remove you from society, and
Mm.
one is to deter people from committing an act. So, if a kid was doing something like that, I'd want them to spend a week or so in juvie to learn, if you do this again, next time you'll get in more trouble, and this is what the trouble's like. To try to convince people to not do the bad thing. If people do so many bad things that you can't convince them not to, then you have the removal from society, which would be like a life in jail type thing. And I think that would extend to animals, and I think it would depend on if you could get people to stop doing these issues. The legal side factors in for me, because that is what I would do. I like what I think they would deserve. Like I would not make somebody suffer because they made something suffer. I would just want them to be unable to do it any further.
Yeah, even though I'd feel tempted to want them to suffer, I don't believe in unnecessary suffering. So, like,
Yeah.
what you're saying about the death penalty, I actually think that I do believe in the death penalty because I don't see a purpose in keeping them around because they're literally just going to be in a cell doing nothing.
Mm.
Um, I just feel like the death penalty would just, like there's no point in keeping them around. And I've also seen like a lot of the court footage of say Nicholas Cruz and like everyone's like wishing like they wanted the death penalty because they didn't want to worry about him. But then when
Mm.
they found out he was just going to prison, like they're talking about how they wish they hope he suffers and that they hope he gets beaten up in prison and raped or whatever. I'm not sure if they said raped, but uh,
Mm-hmm. They usually
like
do.
I just don't believe in that. I think that's a very unhealthy mindset to just wish suffering on someone. I would just
Mm-hmm.
in that case I would just wish they were dead, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah,
And also,
I think that's the vegan side of you talking. I think anybody that has that idea of they can recognize what suffering is and just
Mhm.
adding suffering in as like a punishment, I think that's somebody that isn't thinking to an ethical extreme. And I think us vegans, not that I want to pat ourselves on the back or that we're better or whatever, we just happen to be born with a certain amount of empathy. I think we can recognize that it's pointless to give extra suffering.
Yeah.
If that extra suffering isn't going to make that person a better person or isn't going to save somebody else from harm, then
Mhm.
it's pointless.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
so, like Nicholas Cruz, he's getting a life sentence. He's not going to whine anymore. So, like, there's no point in having him suffer. They might as well just kill him off, and like, there's no
yeah.
point in torturing him. That would just be. And then they say, oh, but the families. The only justification for that is, oh, well, it makes the families feel better knowing he's suffering. That's not a.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's a healthy mindset for them to think.
Yeah. Like I
It's
wouldn't
because
judge
it's
any.
just going to lead them to be violent in general.
Yeah. I wouldn't judge any family member from, um, any family member that says something like that they
Yeah, I
hope they
wouldn't
suffer.
either.
But at the same time, that's just grief. That's just somebody
Mhm.
reacting based on emotions. And I think the people that aren't the family members should be able to control their emotions and not feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't blame him for feeling that. I'm sure I would feel that way. I'm just speaking on like a outside perspective of what if I was feeling that way, I don't think that would be the right approach,
Yeah.
even though I probably wouldn't be able to control it too well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but what I was wondering was, what do you think about? You mentioned like, oh well, what if we could give mountain lions a time in prison for torturing animals? And you said, oh, I wouldn't believe in that because they're not going to learn or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, The thing is, what do you think about like people who keep carnivorous animals? Like I know I've heard
Mm.
of a lot of vegans who they're preaching about like, animal rights and animal agriculture, but then they got pet cats and they're feeding them meat.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most retarded thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm against it. Like I have a lot of people I talk to that have cats and dogs, and I like to make sure that they know I don't want their pet family member to disappear from them.
Mhm.
So I'm not. I, but anyways, morally, I do not think we should feed animals to other animals. I
Mhm.
also don't think we should. I think if we were to own animals, I would think that their food they get from us should bring them optimal health. And I don't think there's an optimal health way to feed a cat a vegan diet or even a dog. Dogs can eat a vegan
Yeah.
diet, but out in nature, wild dogs are omnivores. They eat animals. They kill them and eat them. And so I think it's torturous to domesticate dogs and cats to create these small breeds like chihuahuas and pugs, and they can't breathe well, any of this stuff. So the problem is, so I don't think there should be any of these pets. I don't think dogs and cats
Mhm.
should exist. Whichever ones are in the wild are in the wild, but I think it should be illegal to sell them at stores and to own them, breed them, any of that stuff. But the problem is, as long as it's legal, there are going to be compassionate people, oftentimes vegans, that are in favor of rescuing them, but it keeps perpetuating this issue. And I would say that if don't rescue anything that you're going to have to feed animals to. You're going to have to kill cows and pigs and chickens to feed a cat or a dog. because you're gonna have to keep feeding it. And I would say don't rescue it.
You're not even rescuing anything if you're doing that.
Right. Yeah. And push for laws to outlaw domestication of animals. And then I think the best thing probably for these stray animals that are found is probably something like euthanizing them. And that's where I'm at right now, I think.
So you think that rescues should be euthanized instead?
Yeah, for the most part, especially carnivorous ones. I have three rescue guinea pigs. And even those, I kind of have them for selfish reasons, not for myself, but like my family enjoys these guinea pigs. They're kind of fun, but they're vegan. They just eat this hay stuff and then
Yeah, I know what
fresh.
they do.
Yeah, fresh stuff and whatever. And we treat them really well, but I don't recommend it because you have to clip their nails like once a month, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. You have to give them a pretty big cage. And so I don't know if we should euthanize rescue animals that you can just feed vegetation. But yeah, I would say cats and dogs, if you could just outlaw them and euthanize what's left of them. Or if we could afford it, having like a sanctuary where the government basically rounds up all of them, spay and neuter them or not, and put them in a wild sanctuary, like a large area of space that is fenced in, and they live out their lives, and then humans don't own them anymore. Something like that, or euthanizing them. Yeah.
But if you put the dogs in there, what are they being fed?
Yeah, no, so I don't know. I guess like I think maybe in Montana they have wild sanctuary places for horses. I don't know if it might be so much open land it's not considered a sanctuary. It's just where these wild horses are. So if you had land kind of like so I'm in Oregon, and the nature here, there's deer, rabbits, mountain lions, bears, handful of things like that. So if you put cats and dogs out in the wild and they could find rabbits and stuff and eat them and survive, I guess I'm not against this idea. Whichever ones would die out would die out. The ones that survived and are rewilded. I'm not against that, but it might be more ethical to put them down since we created these breeds, especially with dogs. Putting a pug out in the wild and hoping it can catch a mouse is not likely. I don't know what vegetation the dogs would eat. So honestly, the best thing probably is to outlaw it and euthanize them.
Yeah, so you'd be okay with releasing dogs to kill herbivorous animals?
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now. I don't care what animals do in nature to survive. I don't. At this point I would not stop them in the same sense that I would not want to be stopped if I was doing what I needed to survive. And in that same sense, if there was a species that I had to worry about, like let's say if I was about to be attacked by a lion, I would kill that lion to save myself. Or if there was a species of aliens that were more powerful than humans, even if they were a species that had to eat humans to survive, I would get why they're doing what they're doing, but I would want to try to survive. So I would say that we humans should kill off this species that is going to try to eat us to survive. So it's all survival of the fittest, and we have to protect ourselves. But as far as intervening to protect one animal from another animal, if it is just trying to survive, I don't think that that's a moral imperative of ours.
Yeah, I could definitely understand putting yourself first, but the thing is about like animals, like I mean, it's like you said, we created the dog breed, so we're creating dogs and then putting them out to, the rabbits and mice hardly have a chance. All they could do is run.
Yeah. So I don't know, like if we found if a documentary crew were out filming a nature documentary and they found an animal that was dying, like let's just say a chimpanzee that broke its leg, if they rescued it and brought it back and had a vet fix it up and then sent it back to the wild, Now chimps are they're mostly like other primates where they mostly eat fruit, veggies, whatever. But they will kill other monkeys and stuff like that. So the fact that we had it and we saved its life and then we send it back, it's different than sending out domesticated animals. But I don't know if I really care about that aspect. I don't know if we should save their lives or not. If we should just leave nature to nature. If it dies out there, it does. Maybe I'm in favor of putting it out of its misery, but I think you're right. Domesticating animals, making our own breeds, and then sending them out to be extra, like to make extra predators, probably isn't best. But I know that wiping them out is better than killing animals to feed them. If people think that cats are more important than cows and chickens and pigs, that blows my mind. So I do not get why a vegan would feel comfortable rescuing a cat and then feeding it animal food.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I have 4 dogs, but they're technically not mine because I don't have basically I'm 20 years old, turning 21 soon. I go to university and then I come home for the summer. So I recently came home for the summer, and I got 4 dogs here, and I love them. But I keep thinking I can't feed them a vegan diet because I'm not. My mom's very stubborn about that stuff, and none of my family are vegan.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a choice in the matter, but like I think about how much I love them, and I wish I could have them. When I'm on my own, wish I could have poodles. But then, the thing about poodles, there's not many rescue poodles. You'd have to breed them. Like, my mom got them from a breeder, and then you'd have to feed them. If I'm gonna get a poodle, I'd have to feed it a vegan diet. I wouldn't get a poodle to feed it a carnivorous, feed it meat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's complicated. We become attached to things that become attached to us. And so I get it. I hope nobody feels like I'm casting much judgment when I talk about how bad it is in this case. What I think people need to recognize is imagine how attached they feel to their cat. What if you get to go out and hang out with the pigs and chickens that are killed to feed your cat? Not only would one pig to one cat, if you hung out with a pig for a month, you'd probably become attached to it. But to continuously feed a cat day after day after day, I don't know what, 100, 200, 300 animals. And yeah, the dog thing is tough too, because my family, everybody had a cat that I didn't consider mine, but it was there and they were feeding it. And like if everybody was gone on some kind of vacation that I couldn't go on because of work or something, I'm not going to not feed the cat. So if this cat food that, say, my wife bought for this cat, if it's sitting there, I don't believe in feeding cats animal products, but it's there, and I don't want the cat to starve till the family gets back. So I'd
I'm in
probably do
that
what you would
situation right
do.
now, actually, because my mom just left to feed. My mom just left to see her mom, and with my brother. So it's just me in the house right now, and I think I have to feed the dogs. And they just have the food. My mom's like, okay, just scoop it. I always, like, when she asked me to feed the dogs, I always ask to do something else, like take out the trash or help her with something else. I always avoid. I don't even want to like look at the food. I don't like to touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just like dry food, so it doesn't look gross, but I know what it is, so I don't want to.
Well, and it's a double-sided bad issue because it has animal products in it, so animals are killed for the dog food. But at the same time, it's got added fillers, so it's not even good for the dog. So you're killing animals to feed your dog, but you're feeding your dog an unnatural diet for the dog, so the dog's not going to be as healthy as it could be. So it's all downsides, and it sucks. It just really sucks, and I don't know what the answer is. But I think the answer is something like don't normalize domesticating animals. So even if you can rescue an animal, don't rescue an animal, don't purchase an animal, don't normalize the idea of owning and restraining an animal into a small area.
Yeah, I haven't done too much research into the vegan diets for cats and dogs. I haven't done really much into cats because I think cats are just obligate, like they're just horrible creatures. Even if you were to feed them vegan, they go out and kill lizards and birds. Like
Mm.
my ex-girlfriend, she had a cat, and yeah, I mean, I would see stuff suffering on her porch. I think
Yeah.
cats are sadistic animals. Cats, lions, mountain lions, house cats. I hate cats. Uh, but dogs, like, I wonder about if they could live vegan, especially since they're omnivorous.
Mm.
Do you know much about it? I haven't
I
done too much research, but I hear vegan gains preach about it all.
Yeah, I don't. So I'm definitely not in favor of like man-made animal food, like even if we made vegan dog food and we gave it to them. But if we found out like what vegetation dogs liked, so like it's kind of like
Mm.
bears. Bears will eat berries and salmon and all these different things. So if you took all the non-animal products that a dog would eat, like if a dog would eat blueberries and blackberries, and I had a dog that ate carrots, but if you take whatever is healthy for their system and you give a dog a huge variety of all the vegetation they like, if that was enough for them to have optimal health, then that's great. I think people should do that. The problem is it's probably something like humans where we discovered we needed B12, so we had to supplement. And in that case, I wouldn't think it would be bad to have dogs supplement, but it would depend on how much. Like if it was healthier for them to get
Why do you have
something.
a thing against man-made?
If it's unhealthy, I would guess anything.
Oh,
It's kind of
yeah.
like human food. Anything in a box that's kind of prepared by taking flours and sugars and all this stuff and cramming it together. If dogs like fruits and veggies and other vegetation, I'm guessing naturally they like it fresh and raw and just the, I don't know. So, but it would depend on the health. It being natural that's not a good argument. I'm just assuming that that the natural thing you'd want would be the healthier thing.
Yeah, so you're against processed foods, essentially.
Yeah, unless we find out that it's good for us. I believe there are studies that show that tomato paste is actually healthier than tomatoes themselves, something about the process of cooking it to get the paste. But for the most part, I think almost all foods are thought of as healthier, not processed. But yeah, I think humans have a pretty big issue with having unhealthy food and eating unhealthily. So.
I mean, for me, I don't look into health too much. I just know, I regulate everything. I'm not deficient in anything.
Mm,
Um, I go on my daily day without any real issues. Uh, I'm not too like concerned with health for me personally, and I think like for a dog, like you talk about optimal health, like what exactly? So like the best of the best, like I feel like that's a tall order. I mean, nothing really has the best of the best, right?
yeah, no, that's a good point. Which is why I don't think we should own anything. I don't think we should own humans, and
Mhm.
part of that would be we can't give them the best of the best. I don't think we should own dogs because we can't give them the best of the best. Now, if you are out in the world and you're in a society, so right now me and you are in the U.S. So we have our options to try to figure out like, okay, how can we make money? Should I spend my money on video games or should I spend it on the healthier food options? And we can decide what we want to do. No offense to video games,
Mhm.
but yeah, like if the best job I can get that gets me a certain amount of money, I can't get the best of the best food, so I have to get some processed stuff and eat some like breads and stuff that might not be as healthy as eating like whole grains or something. Um, it is what it is. We don't have a perfect world. Not everybody can have the optimal health, but I think that's one of the downsides of owning a sentient creature, human or not, is out in nature, optimal health for a lion is eating like a gazelle or a zebra or whatever. And then optimal health for a gazelle would be eating grass and like making sure it gets to like the certain area at the certain time of year to consume the grass and vegetation it needs. And each animal is going to find whatever they find. And they're also going to have the danger of getting attacked by other things and whatnot. But with humans, we just need to look at studies and see what's best. And in my mind, for humans, the best thing is to consume like whole foods, fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds. And, I think there is a moral obligation to aim for optimal health to the best of our ability if we control something else's diet. So if somebody has kids, I think it's immoral to have overweight kids. If you feed your kids donuts and ice cream and deep fried foods, even if it's vegan, I think it's better to recognize what goes in my child's body is what's going to make them healthy or not healthy, make them feel sick or not sick. And so same thing would go with pets. You just do the best you can do if you happen to have pets or kids.
So you have kids?
Yeah, I do.
Do you feed them vegan?
Yeah, I have 4 kids. 2 of them are adults now, actually. My oldest kid's 24. And all 4 of them are vegan, but I only have 2 that are young enough that I choose what I feed them. And the main one that I do the feeding to is she's 6, almost 7. And yeah, she's been vegan her entire life, and she eats mostly whole foods. She eats garbanzo beans, one of her favorite things. She eats a lot of fruit. We live in a tricky world where there's a lot of processed foods. So obviously, if she goes to grandma's house and gets a piece of candy or something, I'm not going to be like a Nazi about it and stop it. But I would say about 95% of what she consumes is whole, healthy food. She seems to be a healthy kid right now. So,
yeah, I was just wondering. You were talking about like, oh, I have to worry about what upsets my kid's stomach. So like, some people claim to be like allergic to everything vegan, allergic to vegetables or whatever.
no,
I mean, that just sounds like a brat kid.
yeah,
But, like,
right, yeah.
That's what I just think of when people say that. I think, oh my God, your parents.
Yeah, no, I knew somebody that was talking about a kid that they were watching for like a week or so, and they said they were watching like a 8 or 9-year-old and said, "Oh, they'll only eat milkshakes and French fries. I can't get them to eat anything else. So I guess that's what we're going to get." And for me, it's like, sure. I mean, if my kid goes off and gets something like goes to a friend's house and gets an Impossible Whopper from Burger King, then she's going to love that and she's going to want that. But if I go to give her something healthy and she goes, "No, I don't want this. I want to eat an Impossible Whopper," I'll say, "If you're not hungry enough to eat this, you don't have to, but I'm not getting you an Impossible Whopper. So maybe in an hour, if you're hungry, come back and eat this." And eventually, if somebody's hungry, they're going to eat what their option is, especially if it's a healthy option. But yeah, kids are picky and it's kind of tricky, but
Yeah, I was kind of picky as a little kid, but my parents wouldn't budge. They would say, "Eat this or don't eat at all." So a lot of times the food was just really bad. I didn't like it, so I would just go hungry
gotcha.
for the night. But like I have my dorm mate from college. He's got a daughter, and yeah, he just feeds her whatever. He's like, I try to give her healthy, but she says no, so I have to give her fries and bacon and this and that. I'm like, oh my God, man.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're giving options, I mean, you can have apples, oranges, pineapple. You can have oats and brown rice, and I don't know. I mean, there's just so many options of food that even if it wasn't a normal, what people think of as prepared, like typical meals, if you have all these options of food and you're hungry, you're going to eat. We just have such an abundance of food that people are pickier if they're able to be, but you don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if your kids were having stomach problems, I feel like that topic's kind of discussed. Like you would choose your kids before animal products, but
Oh yeah. So my daughter had she was sick a month or so ago, and she had this issue where her lymph nodes were kind of like there's like a bump behind her ear, and we went to see a specialist, and I guess lymph nodes are similar to fevers, where the body is just fixing an infection inside the body. And anyways, I told her, I said, this probably isn't part of an issue, but she's been vegan her whole life. Is there any way that diet can affect this? And she said, oh no, it couldn't. But if there ever was an issue and it turned out, like, let's say my kid couldn't absorb B12 from a supplement, I would feed my kid something that had B12 she could absorb. I wouldn't say we're going to risk your brain health because I care about animals. Caring about animals is just an obvious moral situation once you and your loved ones are protected. And so, yeah, I don't think that'll ever be the case, but in hypotheticals, I would, of course, kill an animal to get B12 out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I probably got to hop off here in a sec, but this has been a great talk. I really liked all the questions you came up with. If you have one more you want to throw
You're
out, we can
expecting me
talk.
to be harness, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely thought you were going to be, but I like talking to vegans and non-vegans. I disagree with a lot of vegans on a lot of things, but it seems like me and you agree on a lot of things. But it's even when we agree, we can like come up with interesting challenges for each other. And I would love for you to come back on and do another talk sometime.
I'd say I agree mostly with like vegan gains. I feel like the things we disagree on are more I already forgot the things. But like I think it was more
It sounds
right
like you would, if it I believe if it wouldn't affect the ecosystem, you would kill off any predators, where I would only kill off the sadistic ones. So there was a difference there. And maybe you care a little less about the optimal health of, say, a dog, if a dog could be fed a vegan diet. But yeah, I think
the thing for that is if they would be suffering, like, I mean, that's the thing I really care about. Like if they're going to have a shortened lifespan, I don't think that's as big a deal. But if they're in pain or something from deficiencies, like, oh, my legs are going out and my tail's falling off, or something horrible like that, that's a big deal. I wouldn't want them bred into existence. But if they could be vegan and just have like, I mean, I don't even know the complications, like what complications would concede being unhealthy for you.
So it's hard to imagine with animals. So there is this one thing that I've heard said before, and it's kind of interesting, that the only animals that are overweight are humans and the animals that humans feed. So domesticated pets, and then farm animals, and then humans. Every other animal just eats what it eats in nature. It eats as much as it wants until it's full, and then it stops eating. And so humans, if you look at like unhealthy food humans can eat, like hot dogs, chicken nuggets, ice cream, cake. If a human's like 100 pounds overweight, then when they hit like 40, 50 years old, they're going to have to go to the doctor a whole bunch, high blood pressure, all these different things. And even though they're not actively suffering at every moment, you can hang out with a 50-year-old that's 100 pounds overweight and have a good conversation with them. But inside their body, things are not going well, and they're going to be more likely to go to the doctor and get diabetes and have all these different issues. And so even if their suffering isn't always detectable, it's there, and it's based on their unhealthiness. If you could force them, if you could lock them in a cabin and have endless amounts of healthy food in there, and they're going to lose weight in a healthy way and only eat healthy things, then they're going to be suffering a lot less, whether it's noticeable suffering or not. And so I think the same thing would happen with animals, cats and dogs and whatnot. Whatever we put into our body, water and food, that goes in, and it makes our bodies either strong or weak or healthy or unhealthy. And so I don't know to what level we could detect taking one dog that lived with an owner for 10 years and figuring out its health. And then if we reverse that and went that whole 10 years giving it more of an optimal diet, how much suffering we could pick apart in there. But I'd say with humans, at very least, it's clear that becoming 50 to 100 to 200 pounds overweight from eating ice cream and cake and all this stuff is making their lives not only shorter, but more miserable throughout, especially in their last 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, like I'm definitely not qualified to be having this conversation. Well, I mean, I guess
Mm.
having the conversation, but to know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I would actually like to see you discuss this with Vegan Gain, since he actually has vegan cats and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Or I know of Dr. Avi. I haven't even seen any of his videos, but my vegan friends mention him all the time.
No,
He's pretty
Avi's great.
knowledgeable about health. Yeah, so you've talked to him about stuff?
Um, I haven't figured out a good way to use Discord, especially with my
Mhm.
equipment. And I've talked to Avi, and he says he wants to talk, but he only does through Discord. So I haven't had a full-on conversation with him yet. But
Yeah.
his stuff is awesome. Watching him talk to Vegan Gains about abortion and wiping out predators was really awesome. He's the one that convinced Vegan Gains to have his stance on the predators and abortion. But
I
Avi's
didn't hear
great.
that. What was that?
Oh, Avi's the one that convinced Vegan Gains to have the stance he has on killing predators and on abortion. So it's worth
Okay.
watching his stuff. But you said the Vegan Gains thing about pets. Does he have a cat that he feeds a vegan diet or feeds
Yes.
animals to?
Yeah, he
Oh, the
has a
vegan
vegan
one.
cat and a vegan dog.
Okay,
I think he
I
has a
would
few
need.
too.
I
Yeah.
think I would want to do the research to find out how optimal the health would be for a vegan cat and then have a conversation with them about it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I imagine I will have another debate or two with Vegan Gains
Yeah,
about
because Vegan Gain
predators.
says that he goes to Vegan Gain says that he goes to and gets checkups on his cats and dogs every month and claims that they're
Oh,
fully healthy and there's no issues at all.
okay. Yeah,
So
and that could be yeah, I would just want to look into it further because it really depends
maybe you
because
could
yeah, like if a
yeah.
cat needs I think taurine is the name of the vitamin that cats need that they get from eating meat. So if you make them a food that has that in it but doesn't have the meat, then they're getting this thing they need. But it's kind of like any vitamin you could get from a store. If you give a human vitamin C pill, it's going to be less healthy for them than if they eat oranges with vitamin C.
Hmm.
And so it's so complicated. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
answer to it, but I
That's the
want to.
thing, like, I haven't
Yeah,
had time to really look into health as much, so I haven't
yeah,
been too passionate about health, but I'm interested for sure. I just
yeah,
don't, there's just so much to explore, and there's already so many things I look at and study, mainly
yeah.
insects and Star Wars.
Gotcha,
Um,
gotcha. Yeah.
I was literally studying Star Wars before I hopped on here.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we should talk about Star Wars sometime. I'm a big fan. But
Oh, I'm probably too
but
advanced.
what's that?
I'm probably too advanced on Star Wars for you to understand.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, yeah, I've
Probably.
been studying since I was born, so
Oh, gotcha. But yeah, I do got to hop off here. I'm going to answer a few of these questions after I hop you out of here. But
yeah, I'll
um,
probably
but
be in the chat.
okay, yeah, but keep in touch, and maybe in a couple weeks come back on if you want to chat about any ideas. It's
Uh-huh.
really been great. So yeah,
Yeah, and when you talk to Vegan Gains, maybe mention that RC sent you.
yeah, I will. I will. I
I'm
liked
honestly
watching
curious what he would say.
your
He'd be all like,
videos.
RC, because
Your
he knows who
video.
I am.
Okay, yeah, your
Yeah,
videos about the compilations of him reacting to you are hilarious. So
yeah.
yeah, all right.
He hasn't seen them yet. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, take care, man.
All right, you too.
All right. There were a lot of questions that came in, and I didn't get around to checking them out because I really wanted to focus on that conversation. So I'm going to answer some of these, and hopefully you guys are still in here. So Smexy, I can't think of the title of that video that the Joey Carbstrong one. So the one I did, the title is "This is why people hate vegans," and then in the description has the link to Joey's. But I can just email you the link. And you said I want to make sure if we talk about it that I actually disagree with you. Yeah, you should watch it. Let me know ahead of time, and then if you do disagree, then we should watch the video together and pick it apart piece by piece because it's really important to see if I'm misunderstanding something or if maybe you are, and so on. Daniel says, could you ask your guest, does he think our commitment to the vegan way, the power of commitment is key, not this reduction way? I wish I would have seen your comment so I could have asked him, but So, RC, if you are watching, because I think you said you were going to be, in the comments, you should throw out your thoughts on convincing meat eaters to reduce if they are unwilling to go vegan. And then next time me and you chat, maybe we can talk about that. Contrarian 420 says, have we assumed suffering is inherently negative? Suffering can be transformative and enlightening. I've learned more about toothaches and reality than from Plato. No, that's a good point. So suffering will lead us to not do something like when you're a kid. If you stand up and hit your head on a table and you hurt your head, then you learn from that to not do that again. So there are aspects of suffering that you can learn from if an accident happens. But somebody causing you suffering, like if an adult goes up and kicks a kid or kicks another adult, all you're learning is that you don't want to be kicked from that person. So I don't think that's a good lesson. I don't think suffering should be caused to other animals. But an animal suffering based on a learning situation, that's a whole different story, and I agree with you. David says that I seem like a starstruck groupie when I talk about Alex O'Connor. Yeah, no, true. I love Alex O'Connor. I think if I could talk to anybody on my podcast, it would, number one would be Sam Harris. Number two would probably be Destiny, and number three, it's probably either Alex or Rationality Rules. I love both of them. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say a starstruck, but I think those guys are great, and I'd love to chat with them about stuff. Smexy said Alex didn't reach out for help from the vegan community. He could have had top doctors helping him. Yeah, no, it's possible. Well, first of all, the guy that everybody talks about that is was his number one supporter and backer on Patreon. That guy, although he's cool, I like what he does. I was chatting with him through email, and we were going to have a conversation. It was set up, and he completely just backed out. No word about it, and I thought that was pretty lame. He didn't even say something like, "This is why I'm not doing it," or "I'm not doing it." He just completely bailed. So that guy, I have some thoughts on. But yeah, I mean, people can reach out. Not everybody's going to do everything perfect, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that there. AV says to Garland Farms, do you think he is intentionally trying to trick people into being vegan by appealing to a less strict form of veganism? Or could some of his inconsistencies be due to lack of knowledge? Now that's to Garland, but I want to respond to that. So I'm definitely not trying to trick anybody into anything. And I'm not appealing to a less strict form of veganism or anything. I care about suffering. It's the number one care I have when it comes to morals. And therefore, I don't want animals to suffer. So when I get challenged with things like the insect talk and bees, I like to be honest, and I feel like I'm being honest here. Contrarian 420 says to AV, if a less strict approach of vegan outreach converts more to veganism than an extreme approach, isn't it a good way to go? Now, you might not know that AV is not vegan, so AV would probably disagree with you. But I agree. I agree that if less strict causes more of a good outcome, that's good. I don't think it's good to trick people or lie to people, and I wouldn't view a less strict thing as lying or anything or tricking. Smexy says ants are pretty smart. They can use tools, recognize other ants are individuals, and build maps for navigation. No, that's cool. I don't know much about that, and I'd like to learn about that. I think we should all constantly be learning. Garland says to AV, it's both. He's extremely lacking in knowledge regarding all kinds of agriculture. Sure, that's true. But he is repeatedly confused to a strategy of appealing to reason while incrementally legislating veganism. Well, I've talked about elements of legislation for veganism, but I think those are all ones that you agree with me on. So Garland, you do you're into the regenerative farming stuff, and anything I would legislate would not go against that. So it would be factory farm stuff, would not be able to, like, I think it should be illegal to pump chickens full of hormones to the point where their bodies grow so big that their legs break from under them, being crammed into tiny cages, being having the tails cut off of pigs and that kind of thing. But you said you don't do any of that kind of stuff. I'd also legislate maybe the dairy aspect, and you said you don't do that either. So I don't think any legislation I'm asking for would affect your type of farming. So let's see. Okay. I'm going to skip past any of these unless I see them at me. Okay, I think I could convince you that pit bulls should be cold. I don't think pit bulls should exist. I'm with you on that, actually. I just watched something recently about, I don't know if you guys saw that thing where the model that was maybe 20 was at a friend's house and a pit bull like bit her entire lip off. I don't know what number it needs to be, but a certain amount of violence that can happen from a domesticated animal to a person should make that species need to be removed from being in domestication. If pit bulls could be put into nature and then they could do what wolves do and live their lives out in nature, whatever. But I don't think that people should legally be able to have pit bulls. I could be wrong. You could convince me. Now, in general, I don't think we should have domesticated animals. But if we continued to have cats and dogs, specifically pit bulls and a few other breeds, I'd say need to go. And the lame argument of it's the owner, not the dog, I don't care. I don't care if the owner being a bad owner leads to a bad outcome. Owners could have lions, they could have chimps, and you could have a good owner, bad owner, whatever. If humans can easily be harmed, the pet should not be able to be near humans. Okay, skipping around. The average omnivore causes way more crop deaths since they eat the animals that eat plants grown into. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Now, I still think there's issue to look at with crop deaths, but choosing the animals over the crops, we'd have to look at the big picture and figure out what's being caused here. Now, part of the problem is I believe I've heard that a big part of what the animals eat of crops is not the part that humans eat. So if you have a field of wheat and we take the wheat, but then the rest of the hay is fed to animals, then I think you got to factor in that kind of thing. But I think it's complicated. Roger Yates, please, Roger, we need to have a chat because I do like to respond to your things here, but it'd be easier if we had a one-on-one. So let's talk soon. How about not calling other animals it for a change? Go on, try it. Be political. I talked about this earlier. I don't care. I don't care about the it thing. If somebody convinces me, that's fine, but I do not care. I say it when I refer to animals, including humans, that I cannot communicate with. So babies are it to me. Animals are it to me. As soon as something's old enough that I can communicate, I refer to them as they, unless I know the gender. It's just what I do. It's how I grew up. It's just how I talk. I don't have anything against people that focus on. I do think it's weird when people call animals people or persons. That's really strange. But if somebody says they instead of it, that's fine. I don't care. But to think that that's a big issue or a big focus, somebody has to convince me of something. Lewis said, lions don't torture. Torture requires intent. Yeah, no, I agree. So to see if a lion is torturing, it would mean that it kills something. Well, this wouldn't be torture, but killing something just to kill it and not eat it would be something in the same ballpark. But getting something close to death, not killing it, and then slowly just making it do whatever. I don't care if that's within their nature or if that's intent in any various way. If they are causing the suffering and it's clear that they don't need to, I would call that not good. Steen says, what about vegan activists going around giving justifications to other vegans and telling everyone that it's okay to feed cats meat? I would need to hear a good argument. The only argument I've heard good at all about feeding cats meat is if it is true that the meat you're feeding them, it's cat food made strictly from byproduct, where it's just the leftover meats that would be thrown out if not used for cat food. If there's some way to prove this, then maybe. It's kind of like the idea of using manure while cows are being used, but then if cows became unacceptable to use, then we don't use the manure. It'd be something like that, where if you're in favor of feeding cats cat food made from byproduct, but then as soon as it's illegal to kill animals and there is no byproduct, that you were to say, okay, we should euthanize these cats and not have cats anymore, then that's fine. But you would have to make a claim like that, I think. This podcast, or what, not podcast, anyways, this mixture of 2 talks and 2 answering questions is at about 3.5 hours. And my voice is almost gone. So I'm probably going to stop here in a second, but I love doing this. And so I'm going to do this as long as I can until my voice goes away. Cause I love talking to people about veganism. I love that. That was a great guest. The one before that was great. I love answering all these questions. And, I think we should all continue to talk and learn and, have ideas flowing. Lewis says guinea pigs can't be vegan. What's up with that? I don't know what that's about. If they can't be given good homes, yeah, euthanasia is probably better than being on the street or in cages. Yeah, definitely. Secrete oxytocin with human touch. Oh, dogs secrete oxytocin. Okay. They feel the same way about humans that humans feel about them. It's not a parasitic relationship. No, that's a good point. Any bit of information we can figure out, scientifically derive these ideas, we should factor that in. That should be factored in. I don't think that means we should own them and have them locked up in our houses and stuff like that. But it's good reason for a friendly wild dog out in nature, that if it came across you while you're out hiking or in your cabin that you built in the woods with no door on the door frame, to play with it and whatever. Yeah, that's totally fine. Justin says, yikes, very poor takes. Which ones? I'm curious. Okay. Marcelo said to Roger that I even called Garland Farms it when referring to his death. Body to be eaten. Yeah, a body is an it. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Again, this is just semantics. But yeah, if there's a body and it's a human, I think my natural go-to is it if I can't communicate. So if it's a baby, it's an it. If it's an animal, it's an it. If it's a dead body, it's an it. Can you eat somebody's dead body? Yeah, you can eat it. Not you can eat him. You can eat her. That you can eat them. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Saying, yeah, there we go. Saying that we should euthanize healthy animals we brought into existence is not vegan whatsoever, dude. Yeah, my main focus on the euthanizing would be something like stray animals. The idea of trying to find homes for them. There's a cat that gets brought into a humane society, and then you find a home for it, and that home's going to feed it animal products that you have to kill animals to feed it. Like, no. Now, if you already have a pet, maybe it's slightly different, but anyways. That's why you don't feed them other animals. Okay, yeah, you're talking about vegan cats, and it's complicated. I don't know the answer for that. Justin Lavant says, I wouldn't say the only options entirely if you say had to absolutely feed them other than human animals. It wouldn't be morally justified. Maybe I'm tired, but I missed that, and I'm gonna skip right past it. But Justin, I do like your challenges on here, and I won't be able to talk today, but my email is in the about section on my YouTube channel. Send me a message. Let's have a chat. So I love responding to the questions on here, but it's always easier to do voice-to-voice chat, whether there's a video or not. So. Lewis said, would you feel the same way about rescued domestic cats if they were fed a naturally complete, purely insect diet, considering you don't care about insects? Yeah. if somebody made cat food or dog food out of insects, um, I am not at a point in my life where I've been able to study enough to know if I care about insect lives. For the most part, I personally won't kill them. But I don't. You have to know something to know it. You have to have your reasoning for why you're doing it, and I'm sure you have great reasoning. I just haven't studied it, and I just don't view insects the same, so I just don't feel that way at the moment. So hopefully you can bear with me. I certainly wouldn't start off by just feeding them flesh or other animals. Cool. Good. AV says, Garland, yes, he is for a vegan mandate, but doesn't see it possible without small steps. Do you think he is hopelessly stuck in his views and therefore anything you present will not? No, clearly I'm not. And I don't think you mean that negatively, what you said anyways. But no, Garland made a great point about bees and the honey situation compared to pesticides. And I am always willing to hear things out and yeah, like in general, I actually respect a lot of what Garland does. If you go to Garland Farm's YouTube channel, the only link he has available up by his banner is a link to like ruminant farm animals. Like if I could press a button right now and make the whole world just go to that style of Garland farm type stuff, I would, of course. To wipe out all factory farming and have farms be like that, I totally would. And I'm not my baby steps aren't to lead to things that I'm claiming I don't care about. I don't want the baby steps to lead to it being illegal to eat animals. I haven't been convinced that that should be illegal. I think that's a hearts and minds thing, and studies and whatnot. But the law, I think, should protect from unneeded harm. I always have an open mind, though. I hope you believe that. Garland says, no, I don't think he will change his mind. Yeah, maybe one will or will not change their mind, but being willing to listen to something and being honest is a whole different story, and I am. Are you a vegetarian? If not, don't speak on health of plant-based food for non-human animals. What? I'm a vegan. My diet is a vegan diet. Don't speak on the plant-based or non-human. I don't know what that's referring to. Same goes for Garuda. Don't speak on plant-based food for cats and dogs. You're not educated on the subject. Well, that wasn't to me, but yeah, I'm not thoroughly educated on the subject. But sentient animals have to consume something to survive. And to be healthy. There is an optimal diet for every single sentient animal, including humans. Now, I don't want to claim the exact detail of what that is, but there is an optimal diet for cats, an optimal diet for dogs, even domesticated ones, even though these are things we bred into existence. There is something that is best for an entire species, even if it's a range of foods. And so the same thing would go for humans. Now, if scientifically we can find out that a cat that would normally say eat raw flesh of animals to have an optimal health, if we could give it a vegan diet that has the taurine and all that stuff, and we can see that it has the same optimal health, then that's fine. The science would just need to show it. AV says to Garland, then is there any point in having a live stream conversation with him? AV says, yes, there is a point in having a live stream with someone who's trying to incrementally take human rights away. Garland, I'm curious what you're referring to, because I think you keep claiming that you think I want it to be illegal to eat animals. Do you think that it's taking human rights away, which it is? I think so. But do you think it is in a bad way, taking human rights away to make it illegal for a human to say, cut out the teeth of pigs? Or taking the right away to put chickens into tiny little cages and instead legally forcing them to have to put them in bigger cages if they're going to have them. Do you think that's a legal right that is an issue? AV says, what would the point be? Well, the point of any conversation is, even if somebody feels set in their ways, having the conversation leads to the elements where they're not set in their ways. So it's kind of complicated, But it's like the thing where Joey was talking to that lady. Now she seemed like she had no interest in going vegan, but the thing she pointed out to Joey was that she used to think she had no interest in reducing, and then a friendly person talked to her, and then after thinking about it, she reduced her meat consumption. So even though I don't agree with Garland on a lot of things, I do think Garland has convinced me of a handful of things. I have no interest, I have no plans to switch my ways over to Garland's ways, and I'm sure he has no plans on switching to mine. But as we talk with each other, and like anybody can talk, hopefully people figure out the best ways of being. Justin said, saying we need to just kill them is certainly not aligned with vegan philosophy. I don't know. I mean, I would say vegan philosophy should aim for the least amount of suffering possible. So vegan philosophy wouldn't say that you should save two dogs over one dog, but that's just what would be most moral, right? And so if you have an animal that humans kind of create and put in a situation, and humans have to kill animals to feed them, then I think it's perfectly vegan to end the life of the animal that we would have to kill other animals to feed them. Like think about this: if you have 10 pigs here on a farm and you have one cat, and to keep that cat alive, you would have to kill the pigs one at a time until the cat finished eating one pig, and then you kill the next pig. What's more moral to do, kill the cat or kill the 10 pigs? It seems obvious to me, but I could be wrong. Okay, I'm going to skip over these. Skip. Garland says to AV, the point would be for others to witness the intellectual inconsistencies exhibited by someone who's trying to incrementally remove human rights. That's a great point. I don't think people should remove human rights. And yeah, it's kind of like somebody that's anti-gun talking to somebody that's pro-gun. I have elements of pro-gun stuff that I'm against, but I am mostly pro-gun as far as the rights to have the ability to form a militia to protect yourself against government, and also the ability to protect yourself from others, which is why I don't think some people say that you shouldn't be able to get a gun until you're 21. But if you can be an adult living on your own, as soon as you're 18, can live on your own, you should be able to protect yourself. Stats aside. Sorry, I'm not wanting to get into gun rights or anything, but I'm trying to point out that the reason you'd want to keep having the conversations is, yes, for other people to hear, to see both sides, and then also to try to convince each other. And if somebody's trying to take rights away, it should be looked at. Now, when you're part of a society, you do lose some of your rights. I think you should retain freedom of speech, but you lose your right to kill others. If you're out in nature, humans can kill humans, and if you get away with it, you get away with it. But if you're in a society, you lose that right. You forfeit your right to be able to kill a random stranger. And so there are rights I think we should lose. I think we should lose the right to harm animals needlessly. Skip. Once again, provide evidence. I don't know what that's referring to. Skip. If feeding cats a vegan diet doesn't have any negative health outcomes, what's the argument that it's not healthy? Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. Somebody says, I don't listen to Vegan Gains. He's not even vegan. I don't think people should call other vegans not vegan. I mean, if you truly think somebody's not vegan for whatever reason, then I guess go for it. But Vegan Gains wants to kill predators, but that guy I was just talking to also wants to kill predators. And, everybody has their different ideas, but trying to take anybody that doesn't fully agree with you and call them not vegan, like the guy that says, because I don't care about roadkill, that I'm not vegan, and I'm not even consuming the roadkill. It's just the fact that I don't even care about roadkill. We should try our best to stop calling each other not vegan. Somebody says, is it safe to eat a raw pinto bean? And that might be in reaction to somebody calling raw vegan diet the best. From my understanding, beans are very healthy for you and not raw ones. Okay, AV says, Garland Farms inconsistencies are a huge problem in the vegan space. Showing those inconsistencies may not change Carson's mind, but it could change the minds of others. Looking forward to the talk. Yeah, fair point. If people listen to a bunch of different ideas, keep an open mind, and are truly thinking and not just following, then hopefully conversations will lead people to come to a good understanding. And I think that's what we should do. Okay, AV showing those inconsistencies may not. That was already said. Okay, skip. Okay, RC. Okay. Oh wow, like 20 minutes ago. Man, there are a lot. I'm not going to be able to get through all these. The question was, what were my thoughts on convincing Carnus to be vegan? Reasonable vegan. Thanks for having me. Sorry for cutting out early. Yeah, no worries. Akash, if you're still there, I ended up doing a Q&A thing for an hour, and then I talked to RC for an hour, and then now I'm just responding to some questions. I actually have another live stream that's happening in 15 minutes, but I have to go reload up on my coffee. I have to go pee, and I might push back that talk a tiny little bit. Okay, do all of your live streams post after you stream? I want to keep a copy for my personal files. I like to look back at my old videos and see how they change. So RC, I can do a couple things. So one, I can take this entire stream, get a video form, and put it in Google Drive so you can just have it. I can also edit out just the part of me and you from beginning to end and do the same thing with it. And this will be on my channel, and also our separate talk will be on our channel, or on my channel, but I can send you the individual thing. Just send me a reminder if I forget, because it happens. I can show you multiple occasions where you desire a world where animals are completely removed from human existence, except for animal documentaries. Okay, no. So there's a difference between, in my mind, what I think we need, if everybody agreed with me, like if I told the world my thoughts and everybody just went, yeah, I agree with that guy, then there would be no pets, there would be no domesticated animals, and animals would be out in nature, and we wouldn't do anything other than make documentaries about them. I wouldn't go kill predators, although I learn something new every talk I have, and I just discovered that, yes, I would, I guess it's not a new discovery, but it's a more cemented one, that I might kill something that is torturing something, like we were talking about with orcas and mountain lions. But anyways, everybody agreeing with me, and then the world leading to that, like if everybody on their own stopped eating animals and stopped wanting domesticated pets, that would be the world. But I have never claimed that I don't think anyways, that I've claimed that I would put that into law. I'm pretty clear with that kind of thing. I do think domesticated animal, like pet ownership, should be put into law, because I think if the only things that law shouldn't get in the way of would be something that involves our own health. And so it shouldn't be illegal to cut down a tree because we need to build houses. It shouldn't be illegal to not eat meat because I don't feel like we have enough studies that I'd want to force that on anyone. But owning a domesticated cat or dog is, and I don't care about emotional health, owning a domesticated cat or dog has nothing to do with our health. So I think that should be illegal. Harming the animals that people are going to eat, I think should be illegal. So I see the confusion there, but hopefully that clears it up. RC says that he doesn't call animals it. Let's see. The farmers make money from byproducts, though. Yeah, so it's kind of like the manure thing. If it's there, like, sure, they can make the money from it, but I think we need to see the numbers to see if an animal is being killed for it. I think there's a huge difference there. Skip. I wish there was a way to press a button and have it just scroll down to the next thing that is at me. But I love the conversations that are happening in here. These conversations are very important. Oh, Jeremy just showed up. Oh, man, Jeremy, I'm going to have to go in a second. But I hope you're still around for when I have my next talk. I'm doing another live stream, which hopefully I'll have the voice for. After talking for a while, your voice just goes away. Hopefully I'll have the voice for that, and that's going to happen here in about 12 minutes. I could just get it through OBS. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. So OBS, if you take if there's multiple different ways to do it, but I just don't know if the quality drops. But yeah, it's up to you depending on how you want to do it. Derek B says, if someone says they can't go vegan because they're Crohn's disease and they say they can't add extra fiber without risking flare-ups, how would you convince them to go vegan? I wouldn't, or at least I don't know enough about it to do so. I would say cause the least amount of suffering you can while taking care of your own health. Yeah, and I think the same thing goes for all kinds of things, even vegans. Like, I'm glad that things like Impossible Meat and vegan ice creams and cakes exist to get people to turn vegan. But people that are already vegan, you should care about your health. You really should. I mean, if you don't care about your health, I don't get why anybody cares about anything. But stop eating unhealthy food. Start being healthy. People should care about their health. So with Crohn's disease, anything that's like a true issue, they're the least of my worries. Even somebody that's full on carnivore, someone like Michaela Peterson that eats like grass-fed, free range. What does she only eat? Maybe lamb or something like that. That's the least of the worries. She's not causing harm to any like factory farmed animals, as far as I know. Cutting out teeth of pigs. She doesn't eat dairy, so that you don't have any of the horrors of dairy. I think dairy is the most important thing to cut. And everything. So anyways, compared to your average person, if you took, let's say 90% of people in the U.S. and Canada, she's from Canada, the U.S. and Canada, let's say 90 to 95, let's say 90% are not vegan. Let's imagine there's 10% vegan. Out of that 90%, I would guess Michaela Peterson, a carnivore, does better for animals than 95% of that 90%. And so yeah, somebody with Crohn's disease that maybe needs to, I don't know much about Crohn's disease, but let's say 1% of your diet needs to involve some animal products or whatever. Do that, consume that, and then don't harm animals for the rest of it. But I'm sure there's ways to have Crohn's and be vegan. I think Lifting Vegan Logic has Crohn's. Contrarian 420 says press Control F, enter. Oh, really? What? No way. Okay, let's check this out. I learn new things all the time. Press Control F and enter at reasonable. Okay. So far, this is working. Oh, what? I already forgot who said that. Oh, Contrarian 420. I really enjoy seeing your comments on my other videos and stuff, and now I enjoy you so much more for helping me figure this out. Jeremy, let me check. I see Jeremy's in here. I think Jeremy might be my next talk here in 10 minutes. It is Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, while I got you in here, I just love talking about veganism. And so I can't get away from responding to comments. Jeremy, if you're still in here, can you let me know if you're cool? And this is for Jeremy Smith. If you're still in here, can you let me know if you're cool with us doing our talk in maybe 10 or 15 or like after our normal plan time so I can run and pee, get more coffee. I've been sitting here 4 hours and I want to have our talk. We shouldn't push it off. But anyways, just let me know. Oh, okay. You're saying that we could just reschedule. That's totally up to you. If you really mean, if you're doing it to be nice, then take it back immediately. And if you are not, then yeah, let's reschedule. Either way is cool. Anyway, we can reschedule. Do you have Instagram? I do not have Instagram. Akash says to RC, can you host both me and Jeremy someday? I don't know what that's referring to, but it's got me curious. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, Jeremy, we talked through Facebook Messenger, I think. So I'm going to hop off here and let's talk because I think I'm free most of the day. So if I just maybe reschedule for about in an hour, but if you prefer to hold off till a different day, that's fine too. So anyways, anybody still listening? I mean, all my posts are trolling, but maybe I'm kind of wanted to add more. Okay. What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm just spacing off. I need to go get something to drink. So yeah, I'm gonna hop off here. But anybody listening that wants to come on the channel and talk, like I did with Akash and with RC, come on because it's easier to break down ideas if you have challenges for me. Even if it's just on a live stream and you hop in for like 10 minutes and then hop out. I think it's a good way to have conversations, but also comments in here are great. Good and thorough chats. Thanks, reasonable and good chatting with the group. Peace all. Yeah, awesome. Okay, take care, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.